Earlier today, it was announced there are not going to be any indictments for the police officers who were involved in the raid in specific reference to the death of Breonna Taylor. Now, I got to clarify. One cop did get an indictment. He got, I believe, 3 counts of wanton endangerment because he was firing into other apartments. The left has taken this as an extreme slight, saying that if Breonna Taylor is innocent, then why is he getting charged for almost hurting somebody else, but not getting charged at all for the death of Breonna Taylor? It's an interesting argument, and we're going to have to talk a lot about it. But once you learn the full details of what happened, it becomes a much more interesting and nuanced story. And I'll say straight up, I've even seen conservative, right-wing journalists and personalities get this wrong. And we did it last night when I said it was a no-knock warrant. So just some quick context. It's the Breonna Taylor case. It's in Louisville, Kentucky. The narrative was that these cops just barged in, no-knock warrant, kicked the door down, and then started firing. Breonna Taylor was sleeping in her bed and got killed. None of that happened. The official story, they pounded on the door over and over again. Witnesses confirmed this. And even Breonna Taylor's boyfriend said they were banging on the door. But they didn't answer. Cops break the door down. That's when Breonna Taylor's boyfriend fires, shooting one of the cops in the leg. He fires back, and those are the rounds that they believe killed Breonna Taylor. And then this other cop, I guess, started firing wildly, and that's the only charge he got. So already civil unrest has started. There's a bunch of crazy videos. As soon as they made the announcement, some dude apparently went for a gun, and then they grabbed him. They're like, yo, don't do it. Stop, you can't. And then the guy chilled out. There's videos of a U-Haul truck pulling up, and then they're pulling out a bunch of signs and shields. And this is causing a lot of people to, get angry. Why? Who organized this? Who's prepared all this stuff? And why do they have shields already? What are they planning for? Apparently, there's protests planned across the country, likely going to, in my opinion, become riots. We'll see how this plays out. But I got to say, something weird's been going on with this show where we book people and then something crazy happens during the day. And we're like, wow, what a great coincidence this person happens to be here. Because we got Maj Toure here. You're the founder of Black Guns Matter.
Absolutely.
And you got a lot to say about this.
Oh, my goodness.
And you just happened to be here the same day this announcement came down.
The Matrix is real.
The Matrix, the simulation, dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It keeps happening to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to talk a lot about this. And I think we got a bunch of other stories we can go through because I really want to talk about Philando Castile.
Yeah.
And gun rights, guns in general, and Black Lives Matter stuff, Black Guns Matter stuff.
Yeah.
So make sure you smash the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that stuff. We do the show Monday through Friday live at 8 p.m. Of course, we're also joined by Ian Crossland.
Share this video.
There you go. Yes. Shameless self-promotion. Share it. Tell all of your friends to watch. And Sour Patch Lids at the production station.
Yeah, I'm over here. I have this weird mic. I hope everyone can hear me, but I am here. I did not die.
She exists.
I do, yes.
We hardlined the internet today. We figured it out. Finally got past all these IP problems. It's going to be a learning curve, man, figuring out how to get this to work. So you weren't here the other day. The internet was all crazy.
Yeah,
the day
like
before
the glitches.
Yeah. The other day, and the audio was all crazy before, and it's like, so we're figuring it out.
Somebody changed something in the Matrix.
I'll tell you this, just as a pointless aside, when it comes to building computers and setting up stuff, I often hear me and my friends always talk about this. There's magic. It's a joke because we plug everything in the way it's supposed to go, turn it on, nothing happens, and we're like, we did everything right, and then you unplug it, plug it back in, it works.
Right.
I have no idea. So we just call it magic. Yeah. I don't know, magic, whatever, simulation.
Magic.
Oh,
It's hardcore.
Right.
It's magnetic.
All right, so let's just get into it, man. Let's talk about the first story. So, for those that are just tuning in, the quick recap. Earlier today, the AG announced the cops involved in the Breonna Taylor case will not be indicted in relation to the death of Breonna Taylor. One guy's getting charged wanton endangerment for firing, I guess, wildly or blindly into other apartments, nearly hitting somebody. And so naturally now we're seeing civil unrest. We got the story from the New York Post. Civil unrest in Louisville intensifies hours after Breonna Taylor grand jury decision. Obviously, if you're tuning in right now, it's happening literally as we're speaking. So we're not covering any of the stuff live. And this story is from 5. We've already seen a ton of arrests. We've already seen people deploying shields. A U-Haul pulls up. They start giving out materials. They've clearly been planning for this in advance. The city declared a state of emergency, I think, several days ago, saying no parking in downtown. And they expect it to go nuts. So today's only Wednesday? This weekend's going to be absolutely insane. So there's a lot to go through here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to ask you, do you know everything that happened with the Breonna Taylor case?
Yep.
And so for those that aren't familiar, this is Maj Toure. You founded Black Guns Matter.
Yep.
So this is, what are your thoughts on the Breonna Taylor case? Let's throw it to you.
First and foremost, love and respect to her family, her loved ones, the people that will never see her again, Breonna Taylor. So I think it's fair to and respectable to make sure that we lead with that energy.
For sure, man.
Secondly, the state is 100% responsible for Breonna Taylor's death. Unequivocally. Now, if you want to get into the weeds and the nuance of, the officers and why this part, now that's for all of my friends that live in hoods across America. Yes, the state is absolutely responsible for it. Now, when you get into the conversation about the nuance and the objective nature of, okay, what happened, like the facts of the matter, right? Some of my friends may disagree with me. Especially the people that will agree with me have probably either been in a shootout, shot at someone, or had someone shoot at them. People that know what rounds do will totally get why someone getting shot at will shoot back.
Oh, yeah.
So in that sense, I want to, again, lead with my primary thought is the state government, which is useless, which does not help.
We'll get into that later because we'll disagree. This is going to be fun.
They're responsible for that death. And when you get to a point where you have someone issuing no, not grade, whatever, I'm in my house. I don't have to answer my door.
Right.
I don't have to. And if I don't answer my door and whoever's on the other side of that door that doesn't announce exactly who they are and it's not clear who they are, if they break into my house, I am well within my means to shoot them. If you come into my house after a certain time unannounced, I'm not answering the door. And if you kick my door in,
here's the challenge, man. I think I read through this stuff. I read what CNN had to say.
Mm-hmm.
I read these leaked documents. I don't think anybody was wrong. I mean, actually, I would lean more towards the state itself and the system itself was wrong.
Yeah.
So the cops are told to serve a warrant.
Mm-hmm.
They go, they knock on the door. They say they announced themselves. Witnesses apparently, saw them, said what was going on. Maybe they didn't announce themselves. They said they did.
I don't believe them. I think they're liars.
You think? Yeah.
I think they're liars. I think that just like they lied about saying that they talked to the postmaster and the postmaster, they got proof that the mail was coming for the drug dealers and all of that to the house. And the postmaster general was like, that's not true. That's not true. They've proven themselves to be liars. They're lying. I do not believe that. Now, unfortunately, regardless of if I believe it or not, Breonna's dead.
Right.
Then they charged Kenneth Walker for defending his house. And the only reason why he's out of jail is because people started making an uproar about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And any of those officers, if somebody did the same thing in their house, those officers would have did the same thing Kenneth Walker did.
So that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
You break my door down. So I'm trying to be that milquetoast fence sitter on this one, right? Maybe it's not going to work. But the idea is, let's say the benefit of the doubt to the cops. You disagree. You think they're lying, and I respect that for sure. Because of course everyone's going to protect their own interests.
Right.
Let's say they did yell, and Kenneth just didn't hear anything. So all he sees is a door fly open, people breaking his door down, and he's like, "My house, my gun. I'm defending myself." It's castle doctrine.
Play dumb games, win stupid prizes.
Yeah, you break into my house, I'm defending myself. It's not the first time we've heard stories like this, too.
Yep.
Where a cop, they'll break in, and they're plain clothes, and even if they announce themselves, this is why I say, when I say it's not anybody's fault, what I'm trying to say, it's the system's fault.
Right.
So I agree when you say the state is responsible. I think it's a system we created. Let's say the cop yells, "Police, we're coming in," and you don't hear him. And then you see a guy in regular clothes armed with a gun.
I'm
and you're
shooting
like,
you.
Right, exactly.
Even if you do hear them, and anyone in the world could be like, "It's the police, open up."
Right.
Exactly.
If they wanted to kill you, and then if you opened the door and they killed you. So like if he thought that someone was coming for him and he heard someone yelling, they came in with plain clothes.
I'm all the way with y'all. We all, in essence, saying the same thing. But then I got to go to, why were you lying? I cannot leave that part out. The police officers saying, and maybe not those,
maybe not the specific police officers
on scene, right? But their team starts to lie to protect those officers.
Oh, yeah.
Then you have a scenario where you tried to get the ex-boyfriend. They tried to present him with a plea deal to lie on Breonna Taylor.
Damn.
And say she was involved and we'll cut down on your sentence. Shouts to him for not being a coward and taking the time, taking those extra years, because he could have got off light. But then there's back-to-back lies. The system, the state, lying to protect their own. This speaks to bigger things. So to your point, though, Tim, if I'm the officer that is getting shot at, from a tactical standpoint, I'm not just shooting. I'm not just returning rounds, right? Especially the first guy that got charged. His charges carry up to 5 years.
That's the wanton endangerment guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
He shot 3 apartments.
Right.
You don't know what you're doing.
And the cops actually testified. They were telling him to chill out.
Right.
That when he was at the door, he was like really nervous and agitated. And I can't remember which cop it was. He was saying, "Bro, relax." He's like, "Brett, relax, Brett, relax."
Right.
I
Now,
think his name was Brett.
the bigger picture here is, okay, this was about drugs. As an ex-drug dealer, allegedly, right? Drugs go like this. Hey, man, I want some weed. Hey, man, I have the weed. Oh, that's great. I have the money right here. That's called commerce. And every other case, right? Tim is like, I'm going to rob Maj. Tim robs me. And I go, man, Tim just robbed me. I call the police. They come get the information. They do the investigation. Not in drug cases. They sit, they lie, they sneak, they put stuff on people. The bigger other question statement that's not being said is, this is another clear-cut example that the war on drugs is an extreme failure.
Oh, yeah.
And in this scenario, it cost Breonna Taylor her life. Kenneth Walker had to be in jail. Couldn't even attend. He had to deal with that. Right? The law enforcement officers could have got killed. One of them got shot in the leg.
Yeah, femoral artery.
And that you will bleed out.
Yeah.
Yup.
So these are things that we're making it about these cops, where I do believe that the one cop that was reckless, yeah, I'm cool with that charge. The other 2 that were returning fire, not in 3 different, houses, those guys aren't charged because, yeah, you guys were getting shot at. That's the part that the objective part that has to come down.
Right.
But the bigger issue is, and I want to say shouts to Dr. Paul for presenting legislation that puts an end to no-knock raids. Not that this was that.
Right.
They handled this the same way they handled the Zimmerman case. Television made it about the stand your ground. It wasn't a stand your ground case, like at all. So the bigger issue is the war on drugs is a complete sham. It's putting respectable law enforcement officers. I am not a statist by any stretch of the imagination. However, I want guys to, if that guy or woman puts that uniform on and say, I'm going to catch some robbers, some rapists, and some unjustified killers today, and I'm going to make the community safer, I salute them. But if you're running around talking about, yeah, we heard that they had drugs, the person that wanted the heroin and this person had the money, you see that it's a failure. And so I think the bigger picture is having those conversations in that regard. And I have to settle with the fact that, and it hurts, I have to settle with the fact that because of systemic flaws, this young woman will never be able to see her family again.
Right. You know when you talk about cops lying, I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
There was a case in New York where I was live streaming. I'm out on the sidewalk, and I didn't even realize what was going on. But apparently I filmed the dude who got arrested. Mm-hmm. The cops lied. So the woman who actually felt the arrest report wasn't the one who made the arrest. She claimed he was blocking the road. He's on video getting arrested on the sidewalk. And I got angry, like, why was there no accountability for lying on that police report, arresting this dude? Nothing ever happened from it.
Because the state can lie. Lawyers, attorney generals, district attorneys, all of that, they can lie on the stand to trick you.
Yep.
But if you lie in response, they can charge you.
So here's the issue I see. I recognize that. And when I hear stories that, cops will lie to protect each other, yeah, what else is new? People don't hold their own groups accountable, right?
Right.
Here's the issue. The far left does the exact same thing. These like extremists, these rioters, they smash and burn. And with a smile on their face, they'll lie about everything. They'll claim, Kyle Rittenhouse was a white supremacist. Mm-hmm. And he's just a kid who was, coming out and...
Shouts to Kyle under duress, doing his thing.
And lowering his weapon when the dude has hands up. The last guy who didn't get shot, because 2 guys put their hands up. This is actually in the lawyer's, the video they put out. He puts his hand up, and Kyle immediately lowers his weapon.
Yep.
Under duress. It's a good point. So there's the left will lie. They'll claim all these things about him to protect themselves. And I see that in every single community. I don't care if it's the police. I don't care if it's Antifa. People do this for their communities, whatever it is. The problem we have, we rely on police. I know you're going to disagree with me.
I will never call the police.
Why is that?
My first interaction with law enforcement, and be clear, I've had law enforcement guys. Diana Mueller, who's a 3-gun competition shooter, has been one of Black Guns Matter's staunchest supporters. She's a cop, though. And some of the things she's just never gonna, I'm like, bro, you're heavy-handed on certain issues because you're 20 years ex-law enforcement. I have guys that I totally would trust my life with that are law enforcement. Ken Scott, Provectus Group, came down to the Solutionary Summit. Instructor of the year in my mind, like every year, right? So it's not that I'm not objective. My experience, my lived experiences with law enforcement, until I started doing the Second Amendment thing, right, have been horrible. My first experience with law enforcement, I worked at McDonald's. I had a free class. I went down in Philly. I went to the gallery when the gallery was the thing. I went to go buy clothes with like my McDonald's paycheck and come back to class. Cop car pulls in front of me. They put me on the hood of the car. They take the money I got like $200 left, right? They like, yeah, you out here hustling. I'm like, no. I work at McDonald's. My uniform's in my bag. I got my check. I just went to the gallery. I'm coming back. They took my money, and they were like, all right, go to class. I was like, damn, y'all not gonna like leave me money for like a trans pass? Because I'm high school. I'm taking a train, and they threw me $10 and said you can get some tokens. That's my first experience with law enforcement at like 15 and a half.
That's that civil forfeiture.
You're right. Just we're taking your money because
you want to talk?
It wasn't civil. It was we're taking your money. We thought you was hustling because I was excited to put the hustler shirt on that I bought with my hard-earned money coming back to school. I had a free period, a free class. I come back. This is my first experience with law enforcement. In the communities, and I argue on both sides. I get love and hate from both sides because that experience in urban America is a different experience than maybe in suburban America. And if I'm in a 10-block radius that I never leave, and 3 out of the 10 cops in my 10-block radius during the time that I'm there, 3 of those are like horrible humans, that is my lived experience with law enforcement. Is that a scathing indictment of all law enforcement? Absolutely not. So I'm in this weird middle of the Venn diagram in regards to law enforcement. So for me,
and politics too, because you're libertarian,
right? So to me, I'm not calling the police until like I shot somebody, and I'm calling them to come clean this up and take a report. Because if I shot somebody, it was absolutely to protect life, protect and defend life. And it's a slam dunk. It was like Jason Voorhees. And it was like, clearly, that's the bad guy. Maj stopped the bad guy. They're going to throw me a party. Hey, police, got one. There's been a shooting at wherever. I'm wearing a Black Freedom Over Everything hoodie. Send help. Boop. And that's it. That's the only reason why I would call law enforcement. Only. Because, unfortunately, a lot of people do not have the emotional demeanor and speak the legalese to deal with law enforcement officers from an objective and logical perspective. And so tensions are high, and it could cost somebody their life. Maybe not even mine. I'm good. I can maneuver with the police easy, but the other 5 guys around may not see it the same way.
I've had a lot of bad experiences with cops. I mean, I've often talked about how I think most people's interactions with cops are going to be negative because you're getting citations, you're going to take it for jaywalking, for speeding, headlights out, something like that. And rarely is a cop going to be there to actually save you.
Right.
But I have been saved. I was saved once from a mugging.
Yeah.
I had a guy trying to mug me, and it was the stupidest thing because I was broke. My wallet's empty, and I was like, I'm not even carrying anything, dude. Cops came out of nowhere. It was nuts, and grabbed the guy, slammed him up against the fence, and yelled in his face, "Not in my town." It was like,
really?
Yeah, it was like one of the craziest experiences I've ever had. And that coming off of, I've had cops give me, I got 2 tickets when I was like 20, and they were both bunk. I got pulled over, and the cop just lied to the ticket in my face.
Lie.
But even then, I still look at, like with all the riots and everything, what do you do if there's no police and there's
me?
Just sure, yeah. In general, like let me give you a scenario.
Okay.
So ultimately, I feel like I'm for police reform.
Yeah.
We definitely got to figure out why, if the cops are lying and they're not being held accountable. Yeah, they got to be held accountable.
Yeah.
If they're lying under oath, we can't have that because
Right.
the system's broken if that's the case, and it happens too much. But I think a lot of what we see in terms of people who get shot because a cop freaks out, we need better training.
Yep.
That means more funding. We need better programs. If you want social workers, then I think one of the ideas, I think you had this idea, Ian, like having a social worker with a cop.
Yeah.
Which means adding to the police, not taking away from. So I look at it this way. I think there's issues. I think we definitely can have conversations to reform and figure these things out. We want to make sure we recognize that cops are people. They have their perspective. They're
humans.
Exactly. And I think a lot of them are underpaid. Like seriously, in New York, it's bad. So they don't even care because they're like, for this job, I'm not risking anything. I'm going to shoot first, ask questions later because I get paid $30K a year.
If you shoot first, ask questions later, I want to hurry up, get you your day in court, and send you to jail.
Right.
Immediately. I don't care if that's an American citizen. As a gun owner, I don't go anywhere without a gun. I carry allegedly, unlawfully in New York, in New Jersey, in Chicago, in Compton, and wherever. If anyone that's with me uses their firearm, shoot first, ask questions later, I want my homie to have his day in court and go to jail. Okay? These bullets, much like toothpaste, the bullets don't go back in the, the rounds don't go back in the barrel, the toothpaste don't go back in the tube. So I am going to say.
The gist of what I was saying is,
Yeah.
I think we need police.
I think you do, but I think that you don't need as many. I think that if there's less laws, there's too many laws.
That's true, too.
The laws, what laws are is a person with a gun at the end of you not complying to force you. That's why it's called law enforcement. And if the laws are unjust, like slavery was law, like this is cool. So Harriet Tubman going like, nah, bro, it's a contradiction.
Yeah.
They were well within their rights to kill Harriet Tubman. If we want to be honest as Americans, all of our heroes were outlaws. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. We were talking about Gandhi. All of these guys and women were rebels. We're like, no, this is morally repugnant and incorrect. Law enforcement, not peace officers like it used to be, not sheriffs, not deputizing constables from the community as it should be. Law enforcement has turned into a over-militarized racket to generate revenue for the state. And when we have so many laws, you're saying your tickets, right?
Yeah.
Oh, your headlight is out. Come on, bro. Like in reality, you giving me a ticket and charging me money for that. If I didn't get the headlight fixed, I probably don't have money. So you're charging me more money for having the headlight out, and it's going to make the quality of life of Americans better. How?
I'd like it if your ticket to get your headlight fixed, you didn't have to pay it if you got your headlight fixed.
I think
every time.
But I think they actually do that.
Is it every time though?
Like the problem is you got to go to court. So they're
Court fees.
Well, I don't know about court fees in these circumstances, but probably because I've only had a couple experiences. But I'm pretty sure in many circumstances, like your headlight's out, get it fixed, and then you go to the court and you show them you got it fixed, and they're like, you're free to go.
But why? Why not police officer just saying, hey man, you got a tail light, you got a headlight out?
Probably because you'll never get it fixed if there's no incentive.
Or okay, if that's the case, right? If you won't get it fixed if there's no incentive, let's go with that theory. It just looks trash, bro, and you'll go, I'll fix it. And if there's like, if I want to drive with one headlight, like just play it like I'm a motorcycle. A motorcycle has one headlight. The problem is we keep asking the state to correct us or tell us when we're wrong. And it ties, I know we kind of going out in the weeds, but to bring it back, this is why you have more and more laws where we have to depend on more and more police to do things that, again, like if we're talking about taking a social worker with a police officer, they did that somewhere where like the arrests like dropped or something like that. The reality is we do not need more police officer or more policing. We need more freedom. We need less laws.
Dude,
Well, I'll tell you what. This was a joke tweet, but it's a fact. What is it? I think what is like a truthism, truism. If you abolish all laws, there will be no more crime.
Right. But here's
Doesn't mean it's
here's
the
the
right
other
thing to
thing.
do, though.
So look at Portugal, right? A few
Yeah.
years ago, Portugal was like, yo, you want to do drugs? That's on you. Don't look to us to chase you about it. Don't look to us to help you. We'll redirect some of the money that we have that we were locking people up for this. We're going to put it into, if you want to get a rehab, we'll, instead of us spending X amount for locking people up, right? We're going to spend a fraction of that for the people that want some help like once, right?
Man, when you
they're-
brought the drug war.
Gone.
Nixon basically created the drug war to go after the black
Community.
the Black Panthers
Yes.
and the hippies.
Right.
And so he created laws that he knew they were using weed, and he was way
Well,
easier
weed
to
was
arrest
already
them.
illegal for a
We
long
was
time.
illegal before that. Before
yeah.
that first guy, no lie, the psychological origin of cannabis decriminalization in America was this one dude that wanted. I forget his name. He wanted
Yeah.
one of the
William
listeners.
Randolph first.
Yeah.
He said marijuana makes white women want to sleep with Negro jazz musicians.
Oh boy.
That is the origin of cannabis criminalization
wanna
in
look it up?
America.
I will look it up.
Look it up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. William Randolph Hearst. And he had the newspapers. He had
Yeah.
the paper mills, so he was able to print the
Propaganda.
Exactly.
So saying this to say, now, okay, we're 40, 50, however many years in. Did you win this war?
No, and then they made
No, they
LSD
made everything
illegal.
worse.
Yeah, then they went after LSD and other drugs in the 60s and 70s.
Meanwhile, the founding fathers owned entire hemp farms. It is a
Dude, look at
contradiction.
George Washington's eyes on the $1 bill. He looks stoned. He looks like a
Blasted.
dude that smoked for 40 years.
Blasted.
So hold on. Let me ask you, man.
Yeah.
Where'd you grow up? Can I ask
Philly.
you? Philly.
North.
Do you think
With
that
an F. Norf.
I grew up in Chicago?
Yeah.
And my experience with cops in Chicago, very bad. My experience with cops in smaller towns and suburbs,
Great.
phenomenal, amazing. Especially sheriffs.
Yeah.
And I think you made that point. You elect sheriffs.
Yep.
So they're accountable. They got to get those votes. They got to be careful.
Right.
In Chicago, I felt like you're faceless. They don't know you. They don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think one of the issues is that once again, even when it comes to the gun debate,
Yeah.
urban versus rural,
Yeah.
people who live out in the middle of nowhere are like, don't take my guns. I need it. What am I going to do? I can't call the cops. People who live in cities are like, cops are right there. I can call them if I need to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people who live out in rural areas, even in suburban areas, where you've got smaller departments, and even some of these smaller suburban departments are militarized. It's crazy. They got MRAPs, armored vehicles, and all that stuff. Even so you have a lot of these people who have a more positive experience.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to understand what's going on in cities,
Right.
And why people in cities are upset. But the same is true in the other direction,
Right.
So when these people are like, "We're going to abolish the police,"
Yeah.
that's like, I get it, man, but you're going from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds.
You abolishing the police and still making everything lawful. It's very simple. There should be police, and this part is my opinion. There should be police for crimes with actual victims.
Agreed.
So, like,
I think Trump should pardon. We've talked about this, like nonviolent drug offenders.
get out of here.
Review them to make sure they weren't pleading down.
Yeah.
Right. You might have a guy who like beat the crap out of somebody, but then took a plea.
This is where I disagree. I believe that you go to jail for the thing that you are sentenced for. You have a trial by jury of your peers, and they go, you know what, Tim? That time you robbed Maj, we gotta give you 2 years. And Tim's behind bars for 2 years. Tim eats, works out. Tim comes out super duper swole. Tim should be able to get back to his life.
I agree.
Now, now to me, this is where, again, objectivity and people get upset. I don't care what your crime is. I don't care. If he's outside, he's not a danger to society. If he is a danger to society, he's not outside.
I don't know, man. What if he's a pedo?
This is where it gets hairy.
Right, because these people will reoffend.
And if they do, they go back to jail.
But
Now,
then
this is
that's
so,
tough.
but I can't. It's like Thomas Paine said, I can't. Let's be clear. I think pedophiles are weirdos that, I want to say this without incriminating myself. If you're a pedophile and I catch you, it's going to be a bad day for you.
Yeah.
Or a last day for you?
or a last day for you. Potentially. You never know. It's the roll of the dice. With that being the case, because I don't want to say it's like premeditated. This is all hypothetical.
Right.
Right?
In defense of someone else.
In defense
you have
of
a right
another
to-
life. Right? I believe that pedophile, that I think is the scum of the earth, should go to jail, should come outside, and he's paid his debt to society.
Do you believe in the death? Do you support the death penalty?
Yes.
What would you give the death penalty for?
For death.
You kill somebody, you get death penalty?
Yep. If it's unjustified, like the weirdo, what's the kid that they took to Burger King? Dylan Roof.
Yeah.
Right? We're not wasting a bunch of time here. Let's give him a trial by jury. I'm extremely hard on people that take life. I'm extremely hard on people that rape. And for rape, I would have a different set of things, but death for me would be people that kill people.
You know, rape's an interesting one because there's two kinds of. There's statutory rape, and then there's forced intercourse, and they're completely different experiences.
As someone that was falsely accused of statutory rape, that's an area with rape in general, but more specifically both of those, I'm like, yo, we got to fine-tooth comb this. Because I know a dude that just came home for like 40 years for rape.
Statutory rape?
Regular.
See, I think we should change what that's called, statutory rape, and do another word.
I think that rape is, and my homegirls are always upset with me when I say this. I think rape is forcible. You know, remember when Aziz Ansari, the comedian,
Like bad date.
Yeah, the girl said, like, he didn't threaten me. He didn't make me feel uncomfortable, but like she wound up, giving him fellatio twice that night. And then she told her homegirl, was like, yo, I think like I didn't like it. And she's like, oh, girl, you were raped. And the homegirl that she was talking to like wrote a piece on it.
Yep.
Mind you, he didn't, she by her own admission is like, he didn't force me. He didn't threaten me. He didn't make me feel uncomfortable. Well, after the fact. Now, that's not rape.
Well, she did say she felt uncomfortable.
You felt uncomfortable, but you give him a BJ twice? because he did this, like, hey.
So I'll tell you right now, like, it's really interesting. You consider yourself a libertarian.
Absolutely.
And we like
I'm a libertarian that has strong conservative values.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's why I thought it was interesting. You mentioned you were for the death penalty.
Yeah.
Aren't libertarians mostly against it?
Yeah, they are. Mostly.
Yeah.
A lot of
Mostly.
Libertarians are against border security. Not
Right,
me.
exactly.
I'm
for
with
borders.
I'm with borders with nations that okay, so like there's really, really beautiful women in India, in Japan, right? I can't Japan's not going to let me go over there and just hang out forever. After that visa's up, Japan's going to be like, okay, bro, time to get out of here. If your nation doesn't let me hang out forever in your town, then our nation shouldn't let you hang out in our town. So, and you can't have no open borders in like a welfare state. You won't have a nation after that.
Exactly. That's like Sweden.
You're right.
Because if everyone's getting access to a social program,
and you're not from the town,
and they're not refilling that, it would be like if you had a big pizza and you said anybody can come in and take the pizza, but only you got to pay for it. It's like, well, I'm going to stop paying for it.
Right.
No, you can't. Well, eventually there's no pizza left for anybody.
So that libertarian and strong and a lot of conservatives call themselves conservatives, but they're really statists, right? They're just Trump supporters that are riding the wave of President Trump, right? Or they're statists. They're not.
Define statist. Like, what do you mean? It's like
a bootlicker, a person that is the government.
Let me tell you. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
The people when those cops came and took the guns from the McCloskeys.
Yeah.
I was furious.
Right.
They didn't do anything wrong. According to the law, according to the AG.
Right.
They were defending their property. People broke onto their property, and the cops came, and the McCloskeys were like, "Turn around so no one sees you." And I'm like, "No, these guys came and stole your guns, dude."
Now here's the funny thing. I agree with you. I think they were unsafe. When I see the wife,
oh yeah, dude, for sure,
three knuckles deep, going go, like waving the gun. That's where they lose me. If they would have been at the low rate, first of all, you got a Scarface house with like a balcony, like you can like be out the balcony and like you got the high ground.
Listen, man, I disagree. You know why? I think I get what you're saying about her, walking in and pointing.
Yeah,
but if you live on your house and you have a right to bear arms,
You do,
We
but-
can't be like you have to have a certain skill level.
No. I'm not saying. I absolutely don't think that their firearms should have been taken.
Right.
Absolutely.
I'm not trying to imply you were saying
I'm saying as a person that deals with conflict resolution. So you know how they be like, well, we got to look at the full story, right? The full story. They didn't break that gate down. Now, did they trespass because they walked through where a sign was posted? Yes, they did. The further back story is they weren't going to the McCluskey's house. They were still on like a public street in a private neighborhood.
It was a private street.
It was a private street it's a private street, but not like on the McCluskey's like porch. Right. They were going past the McCluskey's house because a few days before that, the mayor of that town lived in that town. The mayor doxed like protesters on the internet.
Literally read their addresses out.
Literally.
Yeah.
So, okay, you're reading our addresses out. So we're going to come to your address. Now, they did trespass because it was a private community. They did not, like television was like, oh, they just shook the door and broke the gate down. I have the video of them, like some dude like with like he looked like he was from The Purge, like a black suit on, like opening the door. And
he was holding it open for him.
Yeah. Now you still did trespass because you crossed past that threshold.
Somebody did break the gate though.
Yes.
But
because there's
not-
footage,
right,
not the
right.
people that initially walked in. So they were walking past the McCluskey's house. The McCluskeys, to their perspective, saw all of these people and they're like, "What the hell is going on?" So they go out on their land. Now, I disagree with them from a safety and conflict resolution standpoint. Me, even if I completely disagreed with all of those people walking past, I'm gonna de-escalate. Even if I would have came out and went, you don't know what I think in my head. They would have kept walking past the house. Now, do the McCluskeys have to do that? No, they don't. Where they lost me was when they started waving firearms at Americans and their lives were not in imminent danger. That whole
So hold on. I
fear for my life thing. If you and I, as lawful and safe gun owners, we don't get to use, you can in some states. Because I can and should I are two different things, could and should. I'm not pulling my firearm out until it's time to shoot Jason Voorhees.
So you're not supposed to point at something unless you're ready to destroy it.
Yep.
So in that, like I think the McCloskeys were violating, a few of the cardinal rules.
Right.
But they said these people were threatening them, saying, we're going to take your house, we're going to burn, that's going to be my room, things like that. And let me ask you another question. Mm-hmm. If you were in your house and then you saw a large angry group, come onto private property, and
are they walking past?
You don't know. There's just a large group and they're headed your direction.
I gotta watch.
And you see a dude pull out something that looks like a long black barrel and start pointing at your house. What do you do?
Me?
Yeah.
I watch and I get covering.
If they point that at you, you're not gonna get low ready. You're not gonna pull out your gun. You're not gonna say, "Hey, yo, what are you doing?"
No. If I'm first of all in that scenario, I'm not coming outside. Tactically, it's dumb to do that. That's
Right.
like if somebody breaks into my house. I have a plan. If someone breaks into my house, depending on what floor they're on, and if it's late at night, my family already has the plan of what we're gonna do. Everybody's gonna locate in this room. I got the AR ready. I'm gonna yell out, "We're armed. The police have been called. Please leave." Once they get past a certain point, I am going to Swiss cheese them. Now, for me, in that scenario that you give, some guys outside, I don't know if it's a firearm or not. It looks like
300 people.
300 people, and they walking past until
So you don't know they're walking past.
I don't know that.
Yeah.
I have to watch.
Some people are yelling, "We're gonna burn your house down."
Cool. Yell all day.
And then some dude takes his long black thing and he points it right at.
Cool. Do it. I can find concealment and cover in my house. From a tactical and strategic standpoint, that's what I do.
Would you fault someone for assuming that if someone is in this mob and someone has something that looks like a long black barrel, they start? Would you fault someone for thinking I got to defend myself?
Yeah, but you don't defend yourself by going towards the gun. That's stupid.
So
That tells me that person doesn't have training.
And I think that's obvious. to
Yeah,
McCloskeys.
like it's just
So,
a chick doing this.
The reason I ask is because there's a photo, and a lot of people get this wrong.
Yeah.
I've seen this photo go around. A guy's holding what looks like a shotgun mic, a long shotgun. And if you don't know anything about cameras,
Yeah.
people are looking at this, and there's a guy literally holding a long black barrel and pointing it at him. And I see that, I'm like, he's got a shotgun mic on a DSLR.
Right.
It's a camera. The McCloskeys might have saw that and were like, they're screaming at us. They're saying we're going to burn your house down.
They didn't say that until after they came outside, though.
The
McCluskeys escalated that. And I'm not saying they're on. Be clear, they're on their property. I don't think that their guns should have been confiscated, but they are not safe and responsible gun owners. But from a tactical perspective, you have the high ground. You have a stone house. You have concealment and cover. You have rifles. You have the element of surprise. You didn't take a second to wait and watch. Now, if it's they come through the gate, they shooting, absolutely get busy. From absolutely, but that's not what happened.
I feel like the challenge is, I definitely hear what you're saying. I feel like the challenge is, what if somebody's a gun owner and they're just really dumb, but they're on their property, there's a crowd there. Like, the challenge is, if you go to somebody else's house and they're scared, even if they have no idea how to use a gun, they're holding it backwards and pointing it at themselves or whatever, it's like,
well, no, I don't fault them at all.
Yeah.
I
think your points are fair. Like, they come out, they've got the rifle, and she's pointing it, waving it.
The teachable moment is, I want the McCluskeys to get training,
for sure.
And I don't want. I'm glad that no one was harmed. I'm glad that it spoke to a bigger picture. Do I think that the state should have showed up to take their guns? Absolutely not. I think that was like political theater. I don't think they're gonna like face charges and no.
I see two different kinds of bootlickers right now. You've got people cheering on as the cops seize the weapon from gun owners who, for all their faults, had a legal right to defend their property. Yeah. But then you got the other side. You've got these businesses. Yeah. And this one I'm actually, I empathize and I feel bad. You've got businesses that literally get ransacked by, Antifa, far leftist rioters, and then come out and say, but we support them. That's bootlicking too.
I get it. I get why. So bootlicking has to be, so the term, yes, I agree somewhat. But the terminology and how the term bootlicking is used is tied to the state.
I get it, for sure.
But yes, but I also understand there's guys that my business has insurance. They're going to cake up.
That's not, so in Minneapolis, that's
maybe
not.
Right.
So all of these businesses, because a handful of them, there's a big story about this. The rubble removal exceeded the cost that insurance covered. Because most people didn't think they were going to have to deal with a pile of smoldering rubble.
Right.
So it's like they're done. They're gone forever. It's like their lives are destroyed.
Right. And those are the areas where that Black Lives Matter movement, it started from Ferguson.
Well, Black Lives Matter was Trayvon Martin.
Even before Trayvon. And Ferguson, Trayvon and Mike Brown in Ferguson. Darren Seals. There was a group of people. I went to Ferguson, talked to Mike Brown's dad, talked to Darren Seals, who was a very powerful figure. He literally, there's video of him saying, because it turned from the Ferguson movement to Black Lives Matter. It got co-opted. Years ago, before he was murdered, shot in the head, shot in a vehicle. I went to
Wait, his dad was?
No, not Mike Brown.
Oh.
Darren Seals.
Oh, wow.
3 of the 5 men that started that Ferguson movement, 3 of them have been murdered. Whoa. 2 of them shot in their car. Darren Seals' car set on fire. The Ferguson Police Department is calling it a suicide. Not even investigating it. I went to that Ferguson market. There's still law enforcement posted up at the Ferguson market. I asked those law enforcement. They're like, yeah, they knew that there were 2 sets of videos. They sent one to the Department of Justice. All of these different things. My point in saying that is, even Darren Seals said years ago, 5-6 years ago, Black Lives Matter as the organization just got $500,000 from Google. It is not what it's been co-opted 5-6 years ago.
What's up with this defensive looting stuff, man?
Because you're talking to a group of people that have been, that experience that I have with law enforcement and your experience with law enforcement, we're not getting that same feeling from the suburban areas with law enforcement. And if that has been your lived experience for decades, for the length of time, you're not going to come across police officers for like a bunch. But if you come across them 5 times and 4 of them are trash, and you have no experience of the other like good officers, so it becomes like, yo, you got to remember, we don't own these buildings and the places that we live.
Yeah, but I mean, people do.
I get you.
Look at that firefighter in, about the firefighter in Minneapolis? It was his dream. He saved up all this money, opened a sports bar, and they burn it. They set it on fire. He shows up the next day. They're literally stealing his safe as he's arriving, and the news crews are filming, and he's crying. They end up launching a GoFundMe for this guy. The next day, the whole building was completely demolished. The rioters and looters came back, destroyed everything.
So let's talk about this. It's not the vast majority of the people from the community doing this.
Right. Let me tell you a quick story.
Sure.
And the reason I bring this up, I was in Ferguson when the riots were happening. I got there like a day or two after they burned down that gas station. And when the riots reignited and this looting started, a bunch of young black men linked arms and protected that market.
Correct.
And this, I'm standing right next to these guys, and I'm with this dude who was previously with Al Jazeera. He's now with, I believe he's with Vice. And he asked them, "What are you guys doing? Why are you linking arms?" And he said, "These people looting don't live here.
Yep.
We do.
Yep.
These people are taking advantage of us."
Yes.
And he's like, "But guess what? The media's defending those people."
Correct.
In defense of looting. So they're coming from outside. They're attacking these poor people.
Yep.
Who are desperate. You know what really, really made me angry, dude? To see these young men facing down an angry mob saying, "Back off, it's our store." And then all these lefty publications put out these stories saying, actually, they were looting to fight back against capitalism.
Lying.
Yeah.
Media, most effective devil in America.
Now they got a book called Defensive Looting. NPR interviews the author.
When I say a few weeks ago, I was in Philly. I was at Copa on 40th and what is that, Chestnut or something like that, West Philly, 40th Street. As I'm sitting outside having drinks, about 40 or 50 all black Antifa start walking past. I'm strapped, so I'm good. I will light y'all all the way up if anything get goofy out here.
Because PA's got good gun laws, right?
Yeah, and I'm gonna be a legend. Listen,
I'm
like Leonidas. It's not. I cannot. If I die in defense of freedom, you know how that's nothing more honorable to me.
Valhalla.
You know what I'm saying? I got all. I'm floating in the pearly gates with. Here comes all of the hot girls of every universe are coming my way.
But I want to make sure we stress right now, you're saying you would die defending it, not killing a bunch of people.
No, defending it.
Right.
And so I'm good. I'm confident in my skill set. So they're walking, and they got on all black, but I'm like, it's clearly y'all are white dudes.
Totally.
Y'all are totally white dudes. And I said, yo, it's no black people out. They got the bats. It's like a scene from The Purge.
Right.
And I'm having my Copa Cadillac. I'm chilling. And I'm like, yo, y'all all white. Where the black dudes? And it was one dude that happened to be black. He was like, we out here. I'm like, no, you're out here.
Yeah.
The remaining 49 is like suburban white dudes. And I said, y'all got that Soros money, huh? And literally the dude says, we trying to. Another dude says, we're trying to.
Joking though, man.
I lied to you not. And I'm so mad that I didn't want to have a phone in my hand because they had bats. I don't want to have a phone in my hand if I got to, get busy. So one of the dudes goes over to, if I'm lying, I'm flying. I swear, if anybody listening wants to do some independent journalism, Allegro's is the pizza shop across the street. There's one of these dudes with a bat, goes over to the ATM thing and starts trying to hit it. I get up, I'm like, yo, leave it alone. Y'all not from here. Y'all going to get my community. I'm not even from West Philly. Y'all going to get my community called out for this. Leave it alone. And they leave. The people that's doing this, come on, bro. It's pallets of bricks just conveniently left at places. So y'all are bussing people in.
The media debunked all of that.
What?
The pallets of bricks just conveniently placed in all these random places.
That's the same thing as saying I got video of it. That's the same thing as saying my homie saying, yo, Maj, look, I'm FaceTiming you. See this crate of guns in Chicago? No, that's not a thing.
I'm not saying the media is right.
Yeah.
I'm saying here's what I love, right? I don't want to get sidetracked, so we'll try and loop this back. But when we had Tucker Carlson had this woman on, she's a whistleblower.
Yeah.
She said that she worked at the University of Hong Kong. She knows that China released COVID or whatever. Tucker Carlson had her on, and he gets flagged. It's fake news. They put warnings and blocks on a bunch of his content.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the media starts claiming that he had on a conspiracy theory, and I'm like, well, hold on. Personally, I don't believe it. I don't believe it was like a bioweapon or anything like that. But why do we get to choose which expert is a real expert and which expert isn't?
Who are the fact checkers?
So I'll tell you my personal bias. I think, again, I don't want to derail into COVID stuff. I'm like, look, man, if you tell me that there was an unsanitary market where they're like got all this really nasty stuff going on and then some like virus emerged from it, I'm going to be like, it's a simple solution, man. It makes sense. However, I do see the problem of the media in that you can have Trump come out and be like, here's a handful of studies that say this thing is a good thing. And then the media just says it's not.
Yeah.
So the media doesn't get to be the arbiter of truth simply for
Right.
saying it.
Right.
So that was my point of reference to the bricks being lying around
Yeah.
everywhere.
Now-
All they did for the most part was say, oh, it's actually not true because we were told it's not true.
Right. And so I get flagged for stuff like I posted what Ruth Bader Ginsburg said in regards to getting a nominee for SCOTUS during the last year of the thing.
Right.
She said it. It's not me. I'm not like fake quoting her.
You're not Mitch McConnell. You didn't come out and
Right.
like complain about Merrick Garland.
No, I just quoted what she said. Instagram's like, well, this is partially true because the date. Bro, cut it out.
Hey, dude.
Cut it out.
Dude, you know what they did to me?
What?
I tweeted. So when the Virginia Giuffre leaks came out about Epstein,
Yeah.
I tweeted something to the effect of Bill Clinton was in these flight logs, and now a witness has ID'd him as having been on the island. This should be big news. Journalism is dead. It's just political advocacy at this point. Somebody took a screenshot. It got like 10,000, 12,000 retweets. Somebody screenshotted it, posted it to Facebook, where this fact-checking company, which is only a couple guys apparently, but
Right.
they get this access, called it false information.
Yep.
And so when I went to I looked at it and it said, here's the fact check. The fact check said everything I claimed was 100% correct.
Yep.
Yet they still put the fake tag
Yep.
on it.
Media, most effective devil in America. These are
Yep.
all reasons why when I go say things like the Breonna Taylor scenario, like COVID, like this, like that. The media for a very long time has been the arm of whatever political side of the government. So you'll get this part extreme, you'll get that part extreme. So when law enforcement says, "Oh, we knocked on the door," when law enforcement says, "Oh, it wasn't us that dropped the bomb in Philadelphia on a residential block," I don't believe you. Now, if you prove to me that you're accurate, I'll go eat my hat. But
Yeah.
but believe you?
This is a big ethical challenge too, because so I would say idealistically, like when I take those political compass tests, I'm left libertarian, and I get really offended when people claim Antifa is left libertarian. They're not.
No.
The hippies are. The
Right.
people chilling on the farm, enjoying the sun and minding their own business.
Right.
And so realistically, though, when it comes to policy, I become more of a liberal because I think we do need more authority. And I'll tell you,
What do you mean by more authority?
I'm not saying authoritarianism, and I'm not even saying most authority, just a little bit, right? So
You mean a little bit more, or a little bit like a limited government?
I'm saying a little bit more. I think you need a little bit more authority than libertarianism. That's my opinion.
Okay.
And so the example I think that everyone loves to cite is, I don't know if you've ever heard, it's like the shopping cart problem, that the shopping cart is the perfect example of human civilization. You use it. It's the shopping cart is a free thing for you to use. You get your stuff. You're allowed to carry your stuff to your car, and then all you got to do is put it in the corral. You got to walk 10 feet. But guess what people do? They just kick it. They just dump it on the ground in a random spot. And they were like, there's no obligation to do it. The only reason you should is because it would be better for everyone else. But people still choose not to. And so I'm not. So here there's a serious ethical conundrum that I often think about is recognizing where the lines are in terms of when do we say people are too stupid, or when do we say let them do whatever they want. And so to clarify, when people were living very far apart and there were very few people, you have a bigger bubble of freedom. You have more space, right? So one of the reasons I want to move out to the middle of nowhere where we are now is that I can go in my backyard and I can set up my archery practice and everything. I don't got to worry about neighbors because there's nothing around me. It's great.
Right.
I watch these videos of people firing guns and they walk out into their open space and they've got the range set up with all the dirt and all that stuff. And I'm like, you can't do that in a city.
Yeah.
The closer you get to other people, the more your bubble starts shrinking and the amount of freedom you get starts shrinking. And it's because we're desperately trying to accommodate each other. And then you start stacking laws on top of laws. I think that's the problem is people live too smashed together.
So I do agree with that in regards to you have to be
Whoa. Sorry, bro.
Yeah.
We got breaking news.
What?
30 seconds ago. Police officer. So this is legit. Where's this from?
It's from
Luke
Luke.
Rutkowski of We Are Change just tweeted breaking. Police officer shot near protest in Louisville, Kentucky. The video we have it pulled up. Oh, okay. So it doesn't show anything graphic. It's just a shaky video. People are yelling. I don't know what's going on. I want to be very careful here. This is breaking coming from Luke Rudkowski. So what you got to understand whenever it comes to whenever it comes to breaking news, everybody got to realize information will change.
Yep.
So we're live right now. We're talking about this. And of course, we're tracking this information. I'll tell you, this is why I want to live in the middle of nowhere too, dude.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Oh, I'm out. In 2022, I'm Thanos on my planet.
Thanos? You
I'm
have your
out.
garden? But are you going to kill half the population before you go to your farm?
If I don't have to, hopefully not. You know what I'm saying?
So anyway, just we're going to keep tracking the breaking news. Lydia will keep an eye on it. But let's go back to that point. We're talking about liberty, authority, how much space you had.
I agree in that you have to be. It's like shooting. I have to be more. If I have open space, my
Yosemite Sam, dude,
right,
bang, bang, bang,
right.
bang, bang.
I know that any direction is more than likely not a human or not something that I'm willing to destroy. I know my target and what's beyond it. You can't do that when there's more people around. So I do agree there. I don't think that your freedom, not the act of owning guns, that doesn't shrink. Where I shoot them because there's more people around as a safe, responsible gun owner, that does shrink.
So this is interesting. I remember when they banned cigarettes everywhere, like when
No.
when they started saying you can't smoke inside bars.
Oh,
and restaurants.
yeah. Like
yeah.
no, not a no smoking zone, but like no in this whole building.
Man, I remember this because this was going down in Chicago when I was like, I think I was late teens, early 20s. I don't know. I remember how old I was, but it was like around the time Obama was running and stuff. So I'm this urban liberal. I had my teenage angst punk rock phase, and then I started aged out. I became more of a liberal. I was like, oh, Obama. But when I heard what they were doing with banning cigarettes, I immediately was like, why are they banning people from smoking? And they were like, oh, because it's bad for you. And I was like, so don't go to the bar. And they're like, but what if I want to go to the bar? Then go to a different bar. And they're like, but all the bars allow smoking. I'm like, then open a bar that doesn't.
Simple.
But instead, they pass a law banning all restaurants. You know what they did? I was in Arizona. This is awesome. I was hanging with a friend of mine. She was a bartender. They cut a tiny 1 square foot hole in the roof to be classified as outdoors. And I'm like, it's the stupidest thing I ever heard. You made them take a saw and cut through their roof, and now you're still going to allow them to operate like a normal bar. It's the dumbest thing.
But you know what's beautiful about that? I think so. Let's go back to that. You made a law that now, as a person that smokes cigars, I smoke cigars. If I smoke this cigar and don't put it out and then don't leave, you'll call a person with a gun to potentially come kill me for smoking the cigar.
Well, it's because inhaling the smoke is. I disagree with you guys. I used to work at a bar, and I was economically bound to it. So when they couldn't smoke inside, I was able to breathe. My life expectancy went up. I'm sure. My dad used to smoke in the house, and it was just
Horrible.
awful.
Yeah.
Then my mom made him smoke outside. It was
Better.
so much better. But my aunt and uncle still smoked in the house. I didn't ever want to go over to their house. It was just disgusting trying to eat in a restaurant when people were smoking like across the room.
Go eat somewhere else.
You can't. But every restaurant you could smoke at, it was disgusting.
Don't eat
so
out.
This is. I think it's
That's
the
on you,
greatest
though,
ban.
dude. That's on you.
Yeah,
dude.
don't eat out. Basically, it was like if you don't want to participate in society,
or open a restaurant that says we don't allow smoking. So, for example, right,
Liberty.
the
But I
mask,
was like
freedom over
14.
everything. Right. So you sorry, bro. Unless you like the kid that's like Ryan, like you're 14, you're not getting $20 million, so it's over for you till you're 18. But in that scenario, right, the free market is the answer. Take the mask thing. I don't want to wear a mask. I think that this is a sham. I think that it's real because I immediately started a group chat with like people that worked in the ER, paramedics, virologists, people that are way smarter than me saying, hey, what's going on? What is happening here? And they're like, no, it's real. This is how people are dying. But media is making it way bigger than what it is. So early on, I was like, yep, not doing it.
With the mask, I agree because I can't smell it. I'm not physically affected. Whether I'm told
No,
I'm
no,
physically
yeah.
affected by it, I don't know.
It's really simple. The
But
mask
the
is
smoke.
The
is
mask
another
is
world.
The mask is just so you don't spit on people.
Right.
It's
I
So,
don't
or
get
you could
your-
just not spit on people.
well, no,
Right.
but people don't realize, man. They really don't. Like, you people talk and spit happens.
Here's the thing. Spitting happening. The death rate, now that we have data, right? I get in the beginning. You're nervous about, man, this is unprecedented. Cool, I'm with you. But then I was at my bunker. I was like, oh, this is what we trained for. I thought it was, remember how YouTube was snatching off all of the like people in China were like just passing out, like just falling. And when it gets snatched off of YouTube, I'm like, bro, like.
That was crazy.
And it was gone.
Because they couldn't breathe and they're just falling over.
And so I was like, I went to my bunker and I was like, yeah, man, this might be like The Walking Dead. This might be it.
That's what I thought. Well, I don't know about The Walking Dead, but we were like,
this is it.
You serious, man? Yeah.
Now I was like, I got too many rounds. I'm ready. And
how many rounds per gun?
They say you should have at least 1,000 per gun.
I think you were saying that, right?
That's what.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
So I said, let me wait to the McCluskey's point. I was like, just wait a little bit. Just wait and see. And I said, if I see 2 people in Philly, like drop out, oh, it's go time. Nobody dropped. I'm looking at nobody dying. I'm looking at the inconsistencies in the story. I had people that worked at hospitals telling me that the CDC was changing the guidelines. I'm like, oh no, this is trash. This is not. There were too many holes in the story. So I made a choice to go, yeah, I'm not wearing it. And then I made myself the guinea pig. I went to all of the hot spots, all of them. I've been to Miami, Orlando. The Libertarian Convention was in Orlando. I jet skied. I went to Texas like 3 times. I've been to every hot spot for New York, every hot spot in America twice since this started. No mask. Got on airplanes, no mask, no mask, no mask.
The airlines didn't make you do it.
In the beginning. Now they on some like, hey man. And I'm like, yo, this is stupid, right? So what I did was, I was like, I don't want to argue with y'all every time I get on a plane. And technically, even y'all took a lot of government bailout money. You technically are kind of a private entity, but you're not. But I'm going to go get an RV. And that's what I did.
This is a really good discussion for like liberal versus libertarian.
Yeah.
Not that libertarians are all like liberal typically refers to like a center left. And the way I view it is if maybe if I had more faith in humanity, I would just stick to straight up libertarian ideals. I think the mask is a good example of where we probably disagree. Mm-hmm. My attitude is just wear the mask. Mm-hmm. Like I hear a lot of people say like it's, you know, it's
but
them.
why?
It's not a big deal. It's just you choose your battles. You know what I mean? You choose when to fight. I view it kind of like being stealthy and being, I don't want to say subversive, but stealthy, I guess is the easy way to put it.
No one can see me. I can move a little bit easier.
Right. I don't want to start fights for no reason. I want to make sure that everything I do is targeted, specific, and I'm on a mission.
But it's not for no reason. Do you like so based on after the data comes out, right? The data's come out. Even the CDC's like, okay, bro, you got us.
Well, so there's political, social, and physical reasons, right?
Right.
So I think right now, when you look at the death rate, there's 2 perspectives. One, it's like we crushed the curve, man. 15 days to slow the spread turned into 170. It's ridiculous.
Right.
This now we're just destroying the economy.
So why are we complying with it in a symbolistic way?
No,
so,
that's the lockdowns, though.
But that's the lockdowns are based on.
It's true.
And the masks, those are part and parcel. So if there's a compliance is in wearing a mask. Compliance is, non-compliance is Dr. King going like, because I'm pretty sure there was some people going, first of all, the mask thing this is a rerun. The anti-mask people happened back in the day with polio, especially like in Philly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And Spanish flu.
Spanish flu, excuse me.
Yeah.
I said polio. So the not wearing the mask isn't that it's not for nothing. It's I'm not complying with something that's not based in science. It's not what you lied to me about.
I disagree.
They lied. Well, the models were based on things.
But hold on. So I think the challenge is, were they wrong?
Yes.
So that's different from a lie.
No. They initially the first person. You guys know that the guy that over in Oxford that was like, hey, this is how many people could die if we do nothing.
Oh, that. Right.
That was the entire model. Models are what you use as predictions when you don't have data.
Let me
that guy was wrong. They based their number off of that. Fauci knew Mr. Devious.
He straight up said, we told people not to wear masks because we were worried medical professionals wouldn't be able to
Which is
get
a
them.
lie.
Well, right. Exactly.
And he keeps lying.
Right.
So what we have is the overarching theme in tonight's episode is government officials consistently lying.
Well, with the mask, I agree with kind of both you guys. I think you don't know whether they're right or they're wrong, so why are you being forced to do it? But when you're talking about smoke, I want to go back to smoking inside. Because if we want to talk about government making laws for people and overreaching, I think this is a system where if one person wants to screw it up for everyone else, we have to make laws so that they can't. Because people are selfish and drugs are addictive. Some drugs, especially nicotine.
No.
So,
This is what got rid of peanuts on airplanes.
That's taken it a little far.
But that's what they did,
because
right?
too many peanut shells?
No, because people were allergic to peanuts. Ricky, I think it's Ricky Gervais who got a
cigarette. I'm talking about smoke in the air.
You've seen his bit on
That's
this.
also different
He's
than
like,
smoke.
now I can't eat peanuts. No, because the peanut dust can get in the air and it can kill somebody.
I see.
So, look, man, I understand maybe the peanut thing because you got a lot of people allergic to peanuts, and if you're in a closed cabin with recirculated air, you can die. We're basically saying this group of people can't fly.
Did you hear what's his name? What's the comedian's name with the red hair? Louis. Did you hear?
Whoa, dude! I'm
What
sorry,
happened?
man. I'm
What
sorry,
happened?
man. We're gonna take this breaking story. Let's just go for it, dude. Breaking news, everybody. Shots. This is from the Police Tribune. Is this a verified source? BlueLivesMatter.blue. This is a verified NewsGuard source. Okay, it's not giving me the actual breakdown. Two officers down. Two cops down.
In Louisville?
Shots fired at Louisville riots. Officer down. They're saying update. 2 officers are now reported to be down. The shooting happened at around 8:30 p.m. near Brook and Broadway, according to WDRB. Officers in the area were working on crowd control at a riot when the gunshots rang out and 2 officers were hit. The condition of the wounded officers has not been released. No information about the shooter has been released. So we've got a tweet here from Fallon Glick, verified Twitter user, and Twitter's giving us the business. I want to see what her credentials are. She says she confirms an officer was just shot. She's with WDRB News, and so I don't know where the update is on the second officer, but it looks like. Let me read you what they say. They say authorities began planning for violent riots in the city. This we know. The LMPD declared a state of emergency. We get it. So I think these are the updates we're looking at right now. So let's do this, man. I hate to shift from the conversation because it was getting funny.
We'll go back to Louis C.K.
But this is some serious stuff, man.
Yeah.
Look, we got you here, Maj. You're the guy from Black Guns Matter. What tell us, like, what are your thoughts on that? Because everybody knows what I think when we talk about this stuff.
The universe is self-correcting on the state.
You,
And first of all,
But these-
condolences to those officers.
Yeah, man,
I don't know
that's
if they
brutal.
had anything to do with any of that. Random plot twist might be that there were actually the guys that's like, look, I'm trying to help. You know what I mean? And that could be the case. I don't know them. But until I know them, to be good or bad, my initial reaction is, yo, hope those guys pull through.
yeah, man. Did you watch all Game of Thrones before it got garbage?
No. So listen, literally, I started watching Game of Thrones about 4 or 5 months ago.
Oh, right on.
I had never saw it. And I was like, this is wizards, dragons, I don't know.
There's no wizards, I don't think.
Right. But that's how I was.
They're kind of
The
in.
Red
Right.
Wizard, yeah.
And so
Yeah, right.
that's an amazing. I wouldn't have sidebar. I wouldn't have killed Khaleesi if I was Jon Snow.
All right, so anyway, here's why I bring this up.
Yeah.
Because there was one of the story arcs in one of the, I can't remember which season it was, is Khaleesi takes over a slaver town.
Yes.
And then executes all of the privileged class, like the elite class.
Yeah.
And then this young man comes and says, my father was the one fighting to free them, the one who was providing them with comfort. You killed him, and he was a good guy. And that to me is like, look, man.
That's the crux.
You know what I can't stand for? The system being broken, being broken, and then like, look, there are certain things. It's such a hard ethical conundrum, man. There are certain things where we just see it and it must be stopped, right?
Mm-hmm.
Genocides.
Right.
We're talking right now about a system with a high margin of error in certain areas that needs to be corrected.
Correct.
To go up to some, like, these cops, I'll tell you what, man. These cops probably sitting at home. They're probably playing PS4. They're probably playing they're probably playing Skyrim or some simple game.
Right.
Dude's probably 28, 30. He's got a kid. He's got a wife. And they say, hey, man, there's going to be, protests tonight. And he's like, oh, I guess they're needing me to come in.
Right.
His wife's like, be careful. This is getting crazy. We've been watching the news. He doesn't know anything about these people. He doesn't know anything about Trump. He doesn't know anything about Biden. I mean, at this point, people are probably very political. But you're probably getting these guys who are just like, I don't know, man. Just
I gotta go to work.
I'm going to work. They told me we got to keep people safe.
Right.
I want to make sure that these protests are safe and none of this happens. And then boom, shot to the head.
So
There's regular, like, Look, man, I get the system's busted, but come on, man. These people got families. They're people.
I agree with that. And as a human, I'm like, empathy, our 3-step method is empathy, facts, solution. I got to deal with empathy first before I can start talking about the data, right? Then we can come up with the solution together. So empathy first. The fact of the matter is, just like Breonna Taylor was killed, right? And it's the state's fault and it's systemic. Those officers, that blood is on that same. Who's the person that wrote the warrant? The guy that they were looking for was already in custody. So when are we talking about that person being held accountable?
It's just the problem is
all of the death from that. And you got a Soros crew that's going to jump in and hyper extend it and turn it up and media and ratings and all of this other stuff.
I want to switch it up on you though. I want to say Mackenzie Bezos.
Okay.
She's directly funded, I think, $2 billion straight into intersectional far left organizations and stuff as well. I'm mentioning that because whenever the Soros name pops up, I'm like, oh, let's name all the billionaires. Let's name all the millionaires and the billionaires funding this stuff. Funding this stuff.
It turns into now this is the part where, again, my hood friends will go like, come on, bro. It's like there's people that have generated resources from America that still feel like they have to knock down America where they actually live. Well, because I'm a billionaire and I may actually be a citizen of like Monaco.
You know what I think it is? I think a lot of these rich people are funding the far left in hopes that if there ever is a revolution, they're the good ones, right?
I could see that.
It's not gonna work.
It's not gonna work because of the fact that there were people. Remember in the movie The Dark Knight with Bane?
Yeah.
And everybody that thought they was cool and safe and is like, no, once we got rid of that, we still coming to holler at you.
That's the way it works.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's that same concept.
I think Warren Buffett said this. I could be wrong, so please don't sue me, Warren Buffett. But just fact check this. Something about that. He did this thing where he like called on billionaires to donate a big portion of their wealth, and he was he alluded to the fact that with like all the Occupy stuff and the challenge of the 1%, the rich were too rich, and if they sat back and kept doing the same thing they always did, eventually pitchforks are going to show up.
Napoleon said, "Religion is here, so the poor don't murder the rich."
Did he really say that?
Mm-hmm. Napoleon Bonaparte.
So are these the pitchforks?
So yeah, and so some of that is listen, and this is where I might get a little ooh, right? America has not atoned, our nation, where we all live, has not atoned for some of the horrible, disgusting stains that we have on our flag. Karma, in my view, in my life and lived experience, is real. We haven't acknowledged, you haven't even had the conversation about reparations with black people. You haven't had it. And then you'll say, well, who's going to pay for it? I'm not going to pay for it. We can't do that. Then you print up $3 trillion and the government gets really quiet and everybody seems to know how to get along then. Except for my good friend, Thomas Massey, the one lone constitutional libertarian dude that had to run Republican, says, no, I'm not going to quietly not vote on this largest wealth transfer in American history, socialism. So you haven't atoned for the vilest type of, because all slavery has existed in time, immemorial. But the Mafa, the millions of melanated beings that were murdered, that created the economic infrastructure of America, the place that we live, right? That I love, because I'm not one of those like slavery happened, burned down America. Bro, I like Wi-Fi. I like Dunkin' Donuts. I love where I live. You know what I'm saying?
Cheeseburgers on demand,
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
With this being the case, karmically, if you have not atoned for that and your systemic issues that need correction are now being exploited by very resourceful people that don't have an actual stake in the country anymore. And now you, instead of dealing with that, you want to pretend like, oh, everything's cool. It's great here. You're not addressing those issues and those. You got like, we ain't got to go all the way back. We could talk about redlining. We could talk about this. We could talk about that. Right.
When you brought up reparations, I was ready to jump in because I don't agree. But then you mentioned the printing 3 trillion, 6 trillion, and I'm like, I got no justification, dude. They're gonna print money and just throw it around.
And if it's no issue,
right?
If Austrian economics and Mises and these guys, these really smart guys, are wrong, then okay, then why don't we can solve all of this. Let's just print up $300 million, since it's no issue with inflation and hyperinflation. It doesn't affect our economy. And we can say, okay, we're going to give every American as reparations. We're going to give every American $1 million. And if
that would be like 3 trillion something.
Yeah.
300, or like
300. No, how many people is in America? 300 million?
Yeah. So that's like 300 trillion, I think.
We only need 1 million per person.
So 1 million.
$300 million.
No. It's 1 million times 300 million.
Oh yeah.
So it's like 300 trillion.
Whatever that is, that number.
But
right?
that's just.
But it doesn't matter because we just printed up 3.
What would happen is
It's like 3 quadrillion.
So look.
Is it? Well,
whatever that math turns out to, if you're saying that there's no issue with printing up endless $3 trillion,
I know, man.
let's give African Americans
Even if they gave them like
1.25 or whatever the number is.
Well, so if we're talking only about Black Americans, which is I believe about 13% of the population, it's a lot less than 300 trillion.
Bam.
It's still a lot though. It's still
but
well
to
beyond
solve it,
300 trillion bucks. Everyone gets a million
cool,
bucks.
I'm cool with saying everybody gets the million, right? Because it's going to go back into the economy. Everyone gets the million, and African Americans can get 1.5. Fair, or everybody gets $500,000, and because if it's no issue with the printing of the money,
I see what you're saying.
Now,
well, it'll make hamburgers go to like $75 each.
No way, way more than that.
And the same thing will happen when you throw $3 trillion into the economy.
Exactly,
I've seen it go up 20%. Stuff's up, like inflating right now.
Saying this to say, America and my Jewish brothers and sisters have gotten reparations. The Japanese Americans and their lineage that were held in internment camps after the war were given their reparations.
What do you think about basic income?
I think that everyone should be able to determine what they want to charge for their labor.
But just like the fact, if everyone could get like $1,000 a month from the government.
The government, it's not the government's money. It's already your money.
It's our money, but if it was dispersed evenly amongst
that's socialism.
The right, but so would be $300 trillion bailout.
Right. It's the same thing. That's why Thomas Massey was like, bro.
So you, just to make sure I have it clear, you're basically dragging the government for just printing money like crazy.
I'm dragging the government for being I'm dragging the American people that go into politics that don't understand that they're a public servant. And this cornucopia of money that you think is what it is, since you're throwing the money at that problem, but you haven't thrown money at the community that has been affected and impacted most negatively by, and anyone that disagrees with this, you either don't read enough or you're just in denial.
Well, the thing about slavery, we kind of talked about this a little bit ago, is that 150 years ago, people were just dumped on the street with no education or money at all. And a lot of people are coming from like their great-great-grandfather had nothing, maybe didn't even speak the language very well. That's not the case for a lot of white, like whatever you want to call it.
But,
we're not white.
But here's the thing. But here's the thing. You got indigenous people to this nation that were mixed in. Some were, at one point they were called Negro or Indian. Then you got the people that you brought from somewhere else. You got companies. Before he died, Johnny Cochran was putting together a fund on reparations before he, died. You have companies that benefited tremendously financially from that. To bring it back home, you haven't atoned for these things. We haven't. And if we haven't, and if the system is still in alignment with those things, I can understand why somebody would be so damn frustrated. And then media highlights it, and it makes it. And is it as insane as media is making it? Absolutely not. However, this is what you get. And you have people that have that lived experience with law enforcement, which is the physical representation of a system. That's what law enforcement officers are. They are foot soldiers for policy. They are there to enforce laws. And if the laws are unjust, what does this community have to lose in that regard?
Let me ask you. You're familiar with the phrase, if you give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
You agree with that?
Yes.
How would you feel about creating a system where you just give people the fish? That's it. You take the fish from one guy and give it to the other people so they have fish.
That's socialism. I'm not in alignment
with it. So here's what I'm getting at. I've had a lot of conversations about reparations, and I think you can't just give money to people.
So why did the government print $3 trillion?
Oh, dude, I'm with you, man.
Yeah.
They're just dumping. Like, that's what they're
the Federal
doing.
Reserve
They're
printed
picking.
$3
This is
trillion.
an example of
I
their
agree.
contradiction.
I agree.
Well, we can't give it to you guys who clearly have been impacted by these policies that we as the government set up. But we can section off 24. I got the 900-page thing. You can section off 24 million for us and Senate out of the air thin printed money, fiat currency.
We got to get our salary increases.
Boom.
But here's what I'm saying. In terms of reparation, the way I describe it is, so I consider myself liberal, meaning I actually think social programs can be a good thing. I think the government, we all pitch in taxes to a subscription program, and then there can be social programs to benefit people in certain circumstances. But I think we're doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. The way I see it is, we shouldn't be giving people fish. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're giving people, no, we should be teaching people to fish.
Correct.
So what we say is, you're down and out. You got no fishing pole. You don't know how to fish. All right, we're going to pitch and get you a pole, teach you to fish. Now go do your thing.
These were things that were taught up until the 60s and 50s. Like, the black community wasn't as like there was a systematic attack on the black community. The BLM folks just took it off of their website like yesterday. Another re-attack on the nuclear family.
It was Nixon.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
It was.
Why did they? That's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing, but if you're biased at that point, Nixon was tricky dick. You know what I mean? And he had interest in other areas of corporate scenarios, like this Obamacare that was initially created under Nixon. We couldn't really get it off the same way then. You know what I'm saying? So with that being the case, we had these things. We had trades. America in general, when people go, well, when was America great? When we had very little international interference, right? When Pittsburgh was making 30% of the world's steel, when,
That's crazy.
Factories, 30% of the world's steel, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wow. I didn't know that.
When black businesses, and I'm not saying this to, ignore white families. I'm just talking about the black community because that's where I happen to live, right? When black communities, guys could work a job, plumber, trades were taught in school. I live up the street from Murrell Dobbins in Philly, right off of 22nd and Lehigh. That school was a trade school. Carpentry, electrician, home economics, hair, all of these different things, right? Someone could have a legitimate $67,000, $70,000 a year job, even back then, $50,000 a year, and not even have to leave the neighborhood. Detroit, manufacturing, when corporate interests decide to put their profits as over making America solid and making us an economic world power, the first, center of the scope is the black community. The people that are doing that manual labor, that can make a good wage. I can walk home for lunch. I can walk to work. I can walk back home. I can be with my family. There was a systematic attempt to destroy that. It's happening now again. It's just now my white brothers and sisters, y'all caught up. It's called robotics.
Is that what Black Lives Matter is doing? Destroying the family?
Absolutely, that's part of their goal because they're
I know it's in their goal for sure. They got rid of it.
They're not black people. The leadership, not the face, like Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben. They're like, come on, they have no.
Aunt Jemima wasn't even black. I'm sorry. Mrs. Butterworth is what I was going to say. That was wrong.
They're
Mrs.
not
Butterworth
showing up at the damn executive board meetings. You know what I'm saying? The founder of BET is not the owner of BET anymore.
Yeah.
So my point in saying that is this is a holistic approach. And now what we're seeing in some of these, you're seeing the frustration of people that have been made to feel like they're outside of the American dream. There have been policies and systemic issues that have deliberately made that the case. Now, do you have to submit to it? Absolutely not. I don't care what they meant the Second Amendment for. This is mine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you didn't mean that for me? That's great. Good for you. Not for me.
You put a riot in my neighborhood and you watch me flip real fast on 2A because I used to be very much more like liberal.
Right. And you're like.
Then I'm seeing the helicopters and I'm like, oh my gun.
Right.
Now I'm like, get away from my guns.
Exactly. And so these are the things because your course of re-education or your re-engineering of self is different and it's tied into the human right to defend as opposed to, well, the government said I got it. Now, when you're tying it back to all of these, it's not all of these. It's a few people defending the riots that are not from the communities. It's a well-oiled machine pretending and piggybacking on the back of legitimate legitimate social issues. I'm not talking about like, oh, like, you know, I'm getting treated horribly because they didn't like me. I'm talking about like school choice is real. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're talking about discrimination based on skin tone and bias, those are real things that we can show evidence and fact and prove. So when you're not from that demographic and you don't feel that and you don't do anything, our nation, for the most part, has not atoned in these communities. And atonement doesn't just mean an apology. An atonement means changed behavior. And the behavior hasn't changed.
I feel like one of the problems we have, what I was alluding to earlier, is just throwing fish at people.
Yeah.
Like, okay, there you go. We gave you fish. Now, but, you know, Ian mentioned it earlier because I've actually done a lot of research into this. I've done a documentary on stuff like this. You end slavery.
Yeah.
You don't. What you have now is, you know, two separate train tracks. The way I kind of describe it. One which has a history and one which just started.
Yeah.
And doesn't have the same resources, the same access. So like Ian brought up, a grandfather, you know, a guy is a slave. He gets freed. He has kids. They have nothing to transfer down to each other.
Right.
And they also don't have the education.
Right.
And so that's why I lean liberal on a lot of issues. Like, can we teach people to fish and then make sure we fix the system?
Now, yes, and agreed. But here's the other part to that example you just gave. Then a group of people decide to say, you know what, guys? We were doing the same thing. We can just do what we all were doing on that plantation for our own neighborhood. And then over time, that neighborhood starts to become independent. And it starts to actually, that other side of the tracks, literally, is Tulsa. Literally, Black Wall Street. Literally, that other side of the track starts to look better than this side. Then it gets burned down. Then they redo it. Then they rebuild it, and it's there for 40 more years. Then they zone it, and they do things to systematically destroy it.
I gotta say, man, you know, I had a brief stint as a Democrat when I voted for Obama, and then felt disillusioned because it was war all over again. I don't much care for the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
I think Donald Trump has done enough, like, some good things, anti-war peace deals, pulling our troops back, that I'm happy with. But I really do feel like it's been the Democratic Party the entire time.
Oh, absolutely.
It's been, first of all, they were the party of slavery.
Oh, listen.
But well, just real quick, what I want to get to is, a lot of people say that the parties switched, and I'm like, no, they went subversive.
Right.
Because when you say Black Lives Matter wants to destroy the family, I'm like, they're keeping up the legacy of destroying minority communities.
Right. They are very crafty. It's what I call a beautiful ugly. The precision and the strategy and the tactics, oh man, as a person that plays chess, I'm like, wow, you guys really got that off. You convinced all of the black people to donate to Black Lives Matter, and $700 million of that went to the Biden campaign.
Well, that's not necessarily. It's more complicated than that.
It is, but I'm paraphrasing and simplifying it, maybe oversimplifying.
Let me give the best context I can.
Yeah.
So they say Black Lives Matter is not political. Yet for some reason, Act Blue, which is the Democrats' fundraising arm, is managing their funds.
All of the resources.
Now, Act Blue says that money that isn't claimed goes to Act Blue. So I'll put it this way. If you donate to Black Lives Matter, a portion of your donation goes to Act Blue. Mm-hmm. And if Black Lives Matter doesn't claim the donation properly under some circumstances, Act Blue keeps it, which funds the Democrats' fundraising infrastructure.
Bam.
So it's not going to Joe Biden, but it is providing the Democratic Party a fundraising arm.
And
you see what I mean?
And the fundraising,
you're paying their infrastructure,
right? And the fundraising, all of the Democrats after after you lose or you're out of the running, you can then donate that money to whichever candidate you choose to. And we all know where it's a money laundering scheme. It's a Ponzi scheme. So
I think it's worse than that.
It absolutely is, because Ponzi schemes, if you do them right, it's only a scheme.
Dude. Yeah. I'm from the south side of Chicago, and I know a lot of people who didn't make it out.
Yeah.
And I think I had good parents. I was lucky.
Yeah.
And so when I see what was one factor in my success in getting away and moving out, and I'm not saying everybody there is doing bad. I mean, some middle class living.
Right.
But a lot of people, I know a couple people who OD'd, and one person who when I was younger is dead from an overdose. People join gangs, and I can see that they had bad families.
Yeah.
Now, it's not always true. I mean, some of these people had a regular family and still got caught up.
Just choices.
But when I see Black Lives Matter say they want to disrupt the nuclear family, I'm saying you're convincing white suburban people to donate to an organization that's actively hurting black communities by doing that.
And then say, There's no systemic racism.
They're making it.
It is literally manufactured. That's
see
an
that
example of it.
You see that actress recently? She came out in support for Donald Trump. She said, if you were voting for Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, these are the people who have been in government for decades who literally created the systemic racism.
Correct.
And now you're voting for them. You're part of the problem.
Beautiful, ugly. The
Yeah.
fact that they could trick is a movie. I think it was, I forget which movie it was, but the quote was, the biggest trick that the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he didn't exist.
Yeah.
And it's the same concept. It's, no. We, like, Kamala's wearing Timberlands getting off the plane, so she's clearly cool. She's clearly down for the cause. This is the same woman that didn't want to let nonviolent cannabis guys that were locked up for weed not let them out of jail because California needed the free slave labor.
She wanted to pay him $1 an hour to put out wildfires.
Bam.
Not even a job. It was life risking stuff.
Right. This is the same person that when she was on the Breakfast Club laughs about it.
Yep.
Yes, I smoked every now and then. So the beauty of it is, man, y'all really pulled that chess move off. The ugly is the intent and the deed and the actions and the outcome. As an objective person, I'm able to go, oh man, you was really gonna rob me that night. I saw it. You were good up until you telegraphed, and I could see you in the bar in the big mirror. I could see you talking with the dude over there. This happened to me in New Orleans. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, oh, y'all were good. Y'all almost had me. The objective in me is like, oh man, y'all really got that off. The ugly in me is like, man, that's really messed up.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm emotionally unmoved by it. One, because I'm aware of it, and two, we at war. And if you emotional in the middle of a war, that's how you get your head blown
I
off.
love military tactics, but I hate war.
Right.
So what do you think about Donald Trump?
I like him on. So I don't really think about Donald Trump.
So what about the Republicans?
Some of them are cool. Most of them are rhinos.
Yep.
Some of I don't think that they know what they're statists. I don't think that
Yeah.
a lot of them know what. I don't think that they know that this is a republic. I don't think that they know that the smallest republic is the individual. I don't think that they like their constituents. I think my man Larry Sharp came to the Solutionary Summit. He said most politicians actually hate you because they see you as like in the way of their aims. That's why they jump from the public to private sector. Make the rule this so I can jump back in the private sector and benefit from the rule.
It's not about people anymore, man. It's like a point system.
Right.
These politicians, and not all of them. There's a handful that are good. A handful of them are Republicans, but it's like 8.
Right.
I basically use that number because there were 8 people who sided with Trump on withdrawing the troops.
Yeah.
8 Republicans and 3 Democrats, and I'm like, all right, y'all are cool. Not completely, because there's probably things I disagree with, but you have very, very few of these people, and the rest of them, they just want the keys to the castle.
Right.
So what the way they look at the constituents is they have a chart saying, here's how you're swinging. So they don't care about you necessarily. Most of these people, they care about, what am I up?
Right.
And they say, ooh, you're down 4. Oh, I'm down 4. How can we get me up 3?
Where's some Timberlands?
And
Exactly.
That's purely because they want to get reelected.
Right.
This
But
is another reason for term limits.
So
Yeah.
I asked Thomas Massey about this term limit thing in Congress, right? He said that would be a cotton candy solution. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, cotton candy's like, you taste it, and it's kind of food like, but it doesn't really sustain you. He was like, he pulled out his Congress, like whatever card they give him, and the number, right? He's like, this number means that there's this many people. I'm this many people senior. So this amount of people have actually been in Congress less than me.
Wow.
And so it's not about term limits. It's what you do with the time that you get there.
Right.
Right. But that means the reason why the term limits, they're able to pull off a lot of this beautiful ugly and be there for 50 years, Joe Biden, and not do anything is because the people are not educated about what makes a good public servant. Hence, systematically taking civics and social studies out of schools, right? You don't even know what that process is. You know what I mean? And so the term limit thing would be, because then, okay, let's flip side to that coin. What if there's a guy or a woman in there doing great? And it's like, you're doing great, time's up. And it's like, then you get like a complete trash politician right after them. So that pendulum swings both ways. Back to your question about President Trump. I love him on, first shouts to him for freeing a good friend of mine, Angela Stanton King. He gave her a presidential pardon. She's running for Congress in District 5 in Atlanta, John Lewis's old seat.
Oh, wow.
She came to the Solutionary Summit. Everybody should check into her. She's Atlanta as they come. And I would trust somebody like her in that seat that wants to protect children, that wants to push actual conservative values and serve the people of Atlanta, right? He gave her a presidential pardon. Last I know, like, racists don't do that, right? So this whole, like, is he racist? I don't care if he is. I don't know him personally. Don Jr. follows me. We chop it up here and there. You know what I'm saying? Don's a shooter. I like that. I think Don should run for, like, mayor of New York or something. That's what I think. But I don't evaluate politicians based on, like, if I like them.
Yeah.
I don't need to like you. You're a plumber to me.
Dude.
I hire you. I got a clog. Like, get the clog out. Now you'll do a job, and I'm like, bro, not only did dude get the clog out, he showed me, like, in 2 months you're going to have a clog in this one. You don't have to hire me now, but let me tell you why. And 2 months later, if I get the clog, I'm like, this guy was on it, right? And I'm hiring him. I don't care if he's got his butt crack showing. I don't care. Did he get the clog out?
So here's it's actually an analogy I use for, like, a plumber. You hire two plumbers, or two plumbers come to your house, give you a quote. One guy, he looks terrible. His butt crack's sticking out. He won't stop cussing.
Yeah.
But you know he's got a good record. Like, actually, you might have never hired him before. The other guys look, sharp, but they're, they can't stop complaining about the guy with the butt crack.
Yeah.
So you got one guy with a butt crack, and he's telling you he's going to get it done. You hire him. He starts getting it done, and these guys won't shut up. But they're demanding you give them the contract while this dude's literally trying to fix your toilet. And then they start hitting the guy fixing the toilet, and you're like, let him fix my toilet, dude.
Right.
He's getting it, and they won't stop. You think I'm going to ever give you a contract again? It's not happening.
But the
Never.
difference of the plumber is that after the guy fixes the clog, then his job is to go out on the street and represent you to the neighborhood. And if he's a jerk, that's a problem.
Well, it could be, but depending on what your meter of success is. So for example, President Obama is one of my favorite politicians of all time. I think he's a great symbol for melanated young people, especially. I think that, The Audacity of Hope and Letters to My Father is like some of the best reading I've ever done. I like that he was like the first president of, like, Harvard Law or whatever school that was. I think that that's dope. I think he was smooth. I think that presidential beige suit was like the coldest suit ever, right? I think that he got through things that I would have been smacked somebody in the mouth behind. And for those reasons, he's one of my favorite politicians for those reasons, for that list. Then I pan over to policy. And then I go, no, you campaigned on closing Gitmo. You didn't. You campaigned on getting us out of Iraq and Afghanistan. You didn't. You campaigned on the Patriot Act being the most horrible thing ever. You re-upped on it. So when I look at policy, I can evaluate you. There's really hot girls that I'm like, oh, man, she's so hot. I would never touch her with a 10-foot pole, but she's so hot. And I would never touch her because her spirit is corrupt. I can feel it.
Is that what you think about Obama?
I think that Obama, as a human, I don't know him. I can only base it on his symbolism and his substance.
Bro.
You know what I mean? And the substance of it, I got to disagree with. What President Trump, I think he has gotten things done great in regards to business and the economy. I think that he's been attacked tremendously, more so than any president that I've seen. Maybe second, or first. They're running neck and neck, him and Obama, depending on which side is attacking, right? I agree with him on a lot of things. I disagree. I think his stance on guns has been weak. I think that he's had more federal restrictions on the Second Amendment than Obama in one term than Obama did in two. And that's just me evaluating my plumbers. That's it.
Right. Obama's like a guy that would go out on the street. Everyone loves him. So they're like, oh, I love you. Have a great guy out on the street, but he can't fix the leak.
No.
Right.
And Trump fixes the leak, goes out and yells at people. And they're like, I can't stand him or you because he's your plumber.
I'm going to tell you what Obama was. Obama was the guy who walked up to your front door with a smile on his face, and he was like, hey, and he winks, and you're like, oh, this guy's so amazing. He's like, I'm going to go make you all look good. Walked to the rich people's houses and winked at them, and then walked over to the poor house and started smacking people and kicking them around, and that was his foreign policy. And then he comes and he says at your house, he says, I'll tell you what, I look great, and I can snatch up your kids in the middle of the night, rendition them on an offshore oil rig. You'll never hear from them again. That's the National Defense Authorization Act indefinite detention provision. So I hear exactly what you're saying, dude. He was smooth. He was charismatic. He inspired people. And then when it came to policy, he was the same exact thing I saw in George W. Bush.
This is our fault, though. It's our fault.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We are not making politicians afraid again. This is
our job.
Our
Trump
fault.
is.
We are
But
the
is
government.
he? But is he?
I think so. They've been screaming nonstop.
I think
Almost
they've been
5 years.
I think they've been screaming nonstop on the left. I think that
For sure,
I
yeah.
think that, but they scream. That's what they do. You know what I'm saying? I think that we been should have had people out. It's 19, 20 years later. Afghanistan, it's over. Like, it's done. It's done. Get them home. Don't say get them home. You are the commander-in-chief. You are the commander-in-chief. I think that does he leave something to be desired in regards to his approach? Absolutely. But then when I look at how the economy was humming,
Oh, yeah.
I've made more legal money, maybe or maybe not, allegedly, right? With this being the case, those parts, if you're being objective, that's how I view it. But I also am a one-issue voter, and I cannot ignore the fact that he has been weak on the Second Amendment. I was in the front row at the NRA annual meetings when he first was elected, and he was the first sitting president to address the NRA convention. I was literally in the front row when he said, the 8-year assault on your Second Amendment rights is coming to a crashing halt. That's not the case. That doesn't mesh with, and again, I'm not attacking him. This is the plumber. You can't say that and then say, take the guns first, due process later. That is not something that I want to hear from my commander-in-chief. That is not what our nation needs to hear. I think that what happens is because we have become so complacent with this two-party system that everybody gets barbecued up on July the 4th, but George Washington and the boys literally were like, do not do a party system.
Yeah.
So I think now this is the time that we should be looking into strengthening a third party.
Yeah,
you-
I just
have
tweeted
you ever-
Bernie about that last night.
Have you ever read the original Second Amendment?
No.
I didn't know about this until I actually looked up the Bill of Rights, and I forgot what segment we were talking about. And there was originally 17 articles proposed. It was because there were a lot of people who were scared of a strong federal government, like basically
The
oppressing people.
anti-federalists.
So they said, okay, we'll take these 17 things. A bunch of them didn't make it, but the original Second Amendment was very clear that I'm probably gonna get this wrong. So the gunners out there, super chat, correct me if I'm getting it wrong. But it basically said something like, it says, a well-regulated militia being, necessary for a free state, the right to keep and bear arms should not be restricted. And it said, basically, if somebody doesn't want to join, military service in any way, doesn't mean they can't own a gun. Mm-hmm. I'm like, why did you get rid of that part? I think it was because the language banned conscription.
Yeah.
And so they ended up getting rid of it. They kept that. You can see the spirit of what they meant.
Yeah.
They meant everybody should have firearms. Everybody should be armed. And they get rid of this one provision, and now the left says, oh, but a well-regulated militia.
Means the military.
Right. But they clearly said, even if you don't want to, you can keep your weapon.
Here's the bigger part to that to me. The Bill of Rights was the double down to say, hey, guys, remember, these are things not granted by government, nor can government take them away. Like, just in case in 100 years everybody gets stupid. These list of things, your right to express yourself and then the right to defend what you just said, is not granted by government. It's not taken away. They just did a good job of studying governments prior to and codifying human nature and natural law. Thomas Paine, John Locke, those dudes were somewhere else. I liken them, they're not singers to my knowledge, but when you hear Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, Freddie Mercury was somewhere else. to write those changeovers and that. Like, he was somewhere else.
You're saying like it was profound, like so good. They must have been
somewhere else.
Yeah.
They had hemp farms.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And so they were somewhere else in their understanding of liberty because they had seen, one, they just came from a tyrannical government. And by studying, these guys were, not only were they like, and they had their contradictions, because you notice I keep saying guys, there were no women. So that's strike one, right? These guys were like craftsmen and builders and architects and like guys that like made stuff. That's the power of creation. That's like the power of God. You see what I'm saying? And they tied it into a moral compass feeling thing. And to double down and say, hey, we're going to make this extra list. So we remember that we're making this stuff to like check government. So when we talk about what's a bootlicker, what's a statist, these are the people that think that this is for the government to tell us what to do, not us to put the government on timeout if they start reaching.
We are
too
the
much.
government.
Right. And so that's the part that we've become, even though I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, I am a libertarian with strong conservative values. Strong conservative values. And I'm cool with if everybody else in the liberty movement is like, yeah, there should be open borders. I'm going to go, that's cool that you think that. I don't. Right? This is why I say it's our fault, though, because we are not self-educating. We are not. The information's there. I got 5 phones on me, literally. The information's there. The conversations are being had. The geniuses have left their blueprints. You know, this is why in 2022, I'm like 98% going to just go be on my planet and do my thing. I believe that Americans, and this hurts to say, I believe that Americans are too soft. They're too marshmallow, and we don't want to do what's necessary.
When Obama got elected, I remember he was anti-war, and I was anti-war, and there was a building anti-war movement. Then he got elected, and there was no more movement.
The money leaned on him.
And the president can't do anything if the people aren't surging.
Yep.
It's our job.
Yep. And it's the same thing with Hillary. Remember Hillary used to like fight so hard for universal health care. She used to fight for it. Then she started getting funded by insurance, and that conversation stopped. At a certain point, you got to look at what your legacy is. To me, if I went hard left or hard right, oh man, I'd have a TV show. Like it would I'm charismatic, I'm handsome, right? I'm reasonably smart. If I picked a side as opposed to being balanced and objective, like even in the chat, there's going to be, as you guys scroll through this, there's going to be people that are saying I'm insane, I'm a terrorist, I'm one of those black power dudes. Then there's going to be people going, he's a patriot, depending on what I'm talking about.
I'm looking at right here, people being like, this guy's awful, and another guy being like, dude, I was cheering. I can't believe it. This is awesome. You're an interesting dude, man.
It's layers. It's
Yeah.
context. It's contextual. It's the gray area that is what most of us actually are. But we've been forced into picking one of these sides, and then we keep, again, July 4th reference, we keep going, America, 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 but the founding fathers that we say that we support, we don't even have a conversation about Thomas Paine, who shaped the minds of like damn near all of those guys. You know what I mean? And so when you have someone such as myself or other people that show up that are in those gray areas and saying, I agree here, I disagree here. I'm feeling this, I'm not feeling that. Those people get vilified, ridiculed on this side, depending on the conversation, and heralded and celebrated on this side, depending on the conversation. And it switches and it ebbs and flows. And I'm cool with that.
We got to go to Super Chats.
Let's do it.
We're a little late, but, it's all right.
Oh,
We'll go a little bit longer.
do this forever, man.
Yeah, it is a fun conversation.
Yeah.
I know that there's some people who are saying in the chat that they're not a fan of you, and they're being a little bit more rude than that. A lot of people are digging it, and they're saying they're stoked that you're here.
Yeah.
I thought we're having a great conversation. I disagree with you on a lot of things, but it's cool. It's strange to me. People should just be like, here's a guy I disagree with, and I don't like what he has to say.
You're bringing out the emotions in people,
which is a good thing. Now the question becomes, why do they disagree with me? In no way, shape, or form have I said, I've literally said, I love our nation. I'm not calling for the crash and burn of President Trump. If he's the guy flying the plane, that's stupid, right? I can critique him. Hey, man, you getting us? You don't want to go around these clouds?
It's crazy to me. I mean, I kind of feel like as long as we can have a sane, rational conversation, and we agree on certain things, disagree on others, we agree that America, is great. Let's make sure it works and works for everybody and figure out how to fix it. Then then we'll talk about it.
What they're disagreeing with is my honesty about our nation's stains on the flag.
Well, I think they disagree with you on whether those actually are stains. Whether
before we go to super chats,
slavery's not a stain.
What about reparations?
No, not that.
Oh,
talking about reparations.
Yeah, what about
and
this
stuff
idea
and-
for reparations? Because you need to teach people to fish. So we have like school choice is on the horizon, where you can give people the opportunity. We barely even got into that. But while they're learning to fish, you still need to give them fish so they don't starve while they're learning. So basic income.
Nah.
So
on top
That's
of
it.
so-
We definitely got to go to super chats.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay,
sorry,
let's go to
guys.
super
We can't.
chat. Yeah, because this will be another 20 minutes of us.
Right.
No, because
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, we're getting this basic income.
I just don't like these 3 trillion printouts when we could be giving it to the people directly.
But it just inflates everything. Okay, we're gonna super chat.
All right.
So I got to bring this up because everyone's bringing up this video from I believe the dude's name was Gary Lamb.
Yes.
A message to Tim Pool. I don't know. You see this video?
No.
It's got like
I love him.
200,000 views.
What happened in the video? I might just not know.
He
the
just
guy's
says
name.
thank you to me. He was like he says thank you to Tim Pool. He said that he's working hard. He's succeeding now, and he realized that everything that was really good was good under Trump, and he's worried about what happens if Biden gets elected. He says I appreciate you for the content you do and helping people realize what's going on. But there's a lot of portions in it where he says things like to him Trump is like the hope. He saw how his life was doing. He was doing better and better under Trump, and that the Democrats never did anything for him, and now he's worried what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But this video is getting clipped up. People are sharing different segments of it.
Yeah, that's
he's
good.
getting a viral hit off of
Yeah.
it. He gained he's got 5,000 subs now on YouTube from this one video. He's like a truck driver.
He's just
So I commented. I was like, dude, you're proving the American dream is real, man. Working hard, succeeding.
I agree with that. I don't think that some people get off of drugs and blame it, or not blame it, but they attribute it to Jesus because they went to church, right? You can attribute it to whatever you want. You did the work.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that, not to say Tim, you didn't do anything. You didn't help this guy's life. What I mean by that is when he's talking about Trump created a space where a policy, this is what a politician's supposed to do. The policies economically, more specifically, are supposed to benefit the American people. If I can cut some of that red tape out and you seeing more of that bread stay in your wallet, absolutely you're going to be like, yo, again, I'm going yeah, bro, there's a trickle down there because some of that red tape is cut. If you're not going to be honest about that, we can't even have a conversation. You can yell at me about what he said and how the media spun it. We can have that conversation, but this directly resulted in that, and I got to agree with that. When my friend gets a presidential pardon, which is like a unicorn, right? When my friend gets a presidential pardon for nonviolent offenses that she's going to be able to lawfully purchase and defend her life with firearms now, I have to acknowledge that. So yeah, in that regard, but I want people to make sure that we're not just tying it to one administration. Now he has to, since he has that and he has a taste of that, he has to make sure that he's doing everything in his power to empower the next person like you did for him, like President Trump, that he might run. That guy should run for office.
Dude, Gary.
That's the blue collar dude that we need in those type of local seats. So
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So we got a question here from Alex Ray. Says, Tim, don't hate me for this, but I heard Vosh say that most of the deaths during the protest weren't committed by protesters, that most of the victims were actually protesters. Is that true? It's half true. The rioters caused the deaths, and many of the deaths were other rioters. But then there were certain individuals I don't know if they include this in the death count, the Chaz Chop deaths. Yeah, those two kids who got gunned down in that car were not protesters; they were innocent people. David Dorn was not a protester or a rioter. So I don't believe I've ever said that the people who died were innocent people randomly caught up. I've mentioned those that are innocent. You got caught up when they do. I just say the deaths are bad.
Right.
I don't, there was the pawn shop that burned down in Minneapolis, and they found a body in it. We don't know who that guy was. Dang. There was a pawn shop burned down. And they found a corpse a month later. Wow. So yeah, a lot of people died, and I don't care if you're a cop. I don't care if you're a criminal. I don't care if you're a protester. I don't care if you're an innocent person. I don't want people dying.
Right.
Look, there are going to be people who go out and do dumb things and riot, I don't want him to die, man.
Right.
I want him to like learn and do better, and I want to figure out how we work together. But I think when people start calling for death, they feel like they're justified. That's when it's like, dude, we can't solve our problems if that's
the
all
French
we're doing.
Revolution, man,
Right.
you gotta study.
Dude, but I get it, man. There are people who are so insane, you're never going to convince
they're
them.
just so disillusioned. Like
Right.
it's a symptom. I think we kind of touched on it. You know,
Yeah.
it's like an unavoidable symptom of sending all of our jobs, a portion of our labor force overseas, and locking people into their houses and making them lose their jobs.
And you feel like that person may start to, it's easier for that person to feel like they don't have purpose.
Yeah.
If that person doesn't feel like they have purpose, and if they can ID it with, okay, my life is crashing down around me, especially if they can't see A, a way out, and B, what policies made that happen and what party or person enacted that person starts to lash out. And that person feels, like you said, disillusioned and separated from that American dream at that point. As opposed to this guy, Gary, who's like,
Gary did.
man, Tim, you just told me something that makes absolute sense to me. And tie it in with this, that person now feels that purpose. And we just got to drive people that way.
So we got from Captain. He says, Tim, in your first video today, you mentioned how police need to demilitarize. What offensive military equipment do they use? All the military gear they have is to protect their lives. Well, you added the word offensive military equipment. I'm not entirely sure, if I said offensive. I was specifically talking about like APCs, MRAPs, multiple like multi-unit, multi-city forces joining together. I think the way I described it in terms of militarization is escalation. When the cops start coming out in full tactical gear that looks like they look like they're an army, and they've got long guns and they're riding on the side of armored personnel carriers with LRADs on top that active or maybe we'll get to that point where they some cops in DC apparently wanted active denial systems, which is directed energy weapons. Microwaves your skin, makes you feel like you're on fire. If they start taking more and more weapons like this, it's escalation. Now, I'm not saying I know what the solution is. I'm just saying I think we've put too much extra resources into ridiculous things. Like, you got to see these vehicles of these gigantic, what are they called, MRAPs, I think. And it's like, I get that those exist to protect police's lives, and that's why we can have certain areas that do have them. But I think our resources could be better spent in other places.
Do they carry sniper rifles, the cops? Because those are offensive weapons.
I don't know about carry.
He's asking about offensive weaponry versus defensive weaponry.
I have
Not
a
offensive,
solution
but
for
offensive,
this.
I think is the question.
Not if the government has it, the people should have it.
Yeah.
Fair.
But I guess there's tough questions, man. What about escalation? The cops come out with a sniper rifle because you got a hostage situation and they want to try and get the sniper and take out the sniper, and then the hostages start showing up with snipers of their own in their own windows. You know what I mean? I get it. I'm not saying it's
an unfortunate conundrum. However, I do not trust the government more than I trust the people.
That's a good point, man.
And it's the people are the government. That there's even a
Right.
diversion is so weird.
Right. So like, there's not an extra like, and don't get me wrong, I know officers that train. One of my favorite Instagram channels is Knockout Lights. Mike is a officer's officer, right? He's got like a beautiful, like his daughter, Tactical Trinity. They used to shoot together, and not so Tactical Trinity, and he's got a newborn baby and stuff like that. And his lady, the family. He's a cop. He's law enforcement, SWAT, all of the stuff. Do I think that Mike trains? Yes. Do I think that Mike would de-escalate? Yes. But unfortunately, a lot of guys that in my experience, do not de-escalate. So to, Tim's point, that escalation is there. Now, I don't think that there's a special type of human that happens to be law enforcement. So if law enforcement and the military has it, the American people should have it. It's just like instead of there being two political parties that are like more interested in their side winning more so than what's better for America as a whole and your individual rights. Okay, add more parties. Stop letting it be a duopoly monopoly.
It's just the two-party system is a result of like a natural tendency between people, and then the system creates this. Like the natural one person, one vote system results in a two-party system.
Tribalism.
Tell that to the
Right.
Chinese Communist Party.
Oh well, yeah. So I'm gonna pull up this harsh criticism because I think there's a lot of people who There's a decent percentage of people who are disliking and have criticism, and I think it's important
Give me
to
the
highlight.
hard one, the ugly.
So this was a big super chat too. This guy dropped $100 to say this. His last name is Hunt, and his first name is Mike.
Mike.
And he says, this guy is a product of indoctrination and ignorance. It's just sad. I grew up in a city probably much worse than his, and he's been taught to believe lies. He is completely ignorant to the truth, and to be fair, it's not his fault. I personally...
That's a vague statement based. That was a word salad.
But I think when you're talking about principle, liberty, and stuff, I think you're pretty fair-minded. I think you made points about like race and reparations and stuff that I disagree with. Mm-hmm. I don't see why we can't have a conversation. I'm not going to sit here and just be like, "You're right. Everything you're saying is right." You know what I mean?
So let's go back to the reparations thing, because I'm pretty sure, based on Mike, I'm willing. If I had to bet money, it's either reparations or me being critical of American history. Right? I haven't said anything about what I said in regards to reparation was the contradiction. On one hand, we're not allowed to have a conversation about reparations for black people that identify as African American, right? But on the other hand, we have given reparations to Jewish people. We have given reparations to indigenous people, Native Americans. We, as a nation, we have given reparations to these scenarios. But the argument when it comes to black people is, well, who's going to pay for it? But very recently, we just printed up $3 trillion that didn't get back to the American people by and large, right? So to me, I'm talking about exposing a contradiction. I'm not saying I'm for or against reparations. I'm talking about your reason for saying why you can't is a clear contradiction.
So I think that's what a lot of people think you're saying, like you're legitimately for it. But we do have another comment here from Garhant. He said, 600,000 people died to end slavery. The U.S. paid that price in blood. It was bloody and gruesome, but that price was paid. Base yourself in reality, not 1619 fairy tales. What was
the so that guy should tell me what the economic infrastructure of America was built on. Slavery.
Yeah.
Slavery. Listen, it happened. War is conquest. You lost. Native Americans, you lost. Black Americans, from the motherland, you lost. You were conquered. For tens of thousands of years, Europeans, the Moors in Spain, conquered and dominated. Timbuktu, Tenochtitlan, name any melanated place. The pyramids are 10,000 years old. So we're talking about American history, which our nation is very, very young. Mm-hmm. So my ability to assess from a global perspective and a currently where we live at perspective, just because you don't like the facts of the matter doesn't mean that I'm disillusioned. You don't like the fact that I'm saying it. And I love where I live. The reality is the economic infrastructure of America was on the backs of black people. That is the reality. You lost. You didn't have a gun when the conquerors came. You lost. Native Americans, you lost. That doesn't change what happened. So that's what war is. War is conquest. If America didn't win, if George and the boys weren't outlaws, criminals, because that's what they were.
They were terrorists.
Terrorists. They were definitely going to get hung.
Yep.
Right?
They won.
They won. That's it. That's the only difference. They would not have the same level of they won. Regular dudes, right? That's the difference. So I think what people don't like is their cognitive, their feels get a little bit, when this dude that's American as fuck,
well, I
beep that out, right? When that dude that's black that literally has a come and take it shirt on under here, right?
Molan Labe?
It's a really cool shirt. It says come and take it with graffiti all over it and all this AR, SBR. If I'm saying that as a melanated American that is identifying our nation's good and bad and being honest about it, if that makes you feel some type of way, you may not be being intellectually honest. Someone tell me, all of these guys that are saying this, tell me what the economic infrastructure of America was created on.
You know the
weed.
Here's the real difficult thing with the way YouTube algorithm works, right? I think I've had a lot of people on the show that I really disagree with, and we find things we agree on, and sometimes we don't, and I'll just be like, well, I disagree with you, and I'll say it.
Boom.
And the problem is, like there's a lot of people right now trying to generate as many dislikes as possible. They're not really generating that many. I respect their right to dislike whatever. I don't deserve anything from any of these people. If you don't like it, by all means. But it makes it really hard because if you think that we shouldn't at least hear what you have to say or other people who we disagree with have to say, then it's just going to fall into tribal extremism again.
Right.
So I would love to have a show with like some far left Antifa people sitting in chairs. It's just hard to get these people in. Plus, many of them are racist, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, no joke. Like, I'm not going to sit here and have them bash on certain races or anything like that, you know?
So my question for people who are really, really hating on this conversation is, how does that make you any different from the far left?
Right.
Why are you trying to shut down conversation just because you don't?
Well, I think you guys might be a little harsh. There were some good points brought up. Like people are
No. I get their points, but they're wrong. I understand how they're wrong. They're wrong. So to say I'm disillusioned, right? I thoroughly study our nation's history, all of it. I've read Mein Kampf 3 times. I don't like Hitler, right? I want to know what makes a person like that tick. My struggle. I need to know what your struggle was, Hitler. What was your struggle that all made you kill millions of people and almost take over like most of the modern world, right? I don't have to agree with Hitler. I don't think that Jewish people are the scourge of the universe, right? I don't think that. But for me to not read Mein Kampf is stupid, right? I can evaluate and go, this guy had something. First of all, he went to go get an Adinkra symbol. An Adinkra symbol, that swastika, is an ancient African symbol.
I thought it was Indian.
And a lot of people do. That's why it's on the Buddha's head. But that predates the Sankofa, bird, and all of those other different symbols. It's an Adinkra symbol. Hitler also said he would trade his army for 10,000 Africans with the knowledge of themselves. Somebody go look it up and disprove me. So my thing is, I don't have to agree or like our nation's ugly history. Again, no one in this chat can say I'm this person calling for the flaming end of America. I think that our nation, us included, we have not addressed this issue head on enough because we tend to not want to have the discourse. We tend to, no, not my America. Yes, your America too. The reality is we don't have any foremothers. That's a problem.
I mean, we do, but they're not called the founding mothers.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's what I mean. But you get what I'm saying?
Susan B. Anthony, but that was well after.
That's well after.
Yeah,
now, my point in saying that is there was a time in our nation when women could not vote.
Yeah.
I'm not a woman to I'm not affected by that negatively or my lineage or I wasn't alive then. Right. But to acknowledge that that's an ugly part of our history. That's ugly, bro.
I think it's confusing with reparations because the people that were the slaves are dead now, so we can't pay them back. We can't repair them. Mm-hmm. But so it's confusing. I think it's confusing people.
So how did the Jewish people that were the vast majority of those 6 million people were dead? If those are the dead people,
their families,
families,
and the things that were destroyed and things like that.
My grandmother is alive. My grandmother is 90-something years old. Her mother was a slave.
Wow.
This isn't that far removed.
Right.
So that's my family.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
So when we're talking about math and logic and data and numbers, America's only a few hundred years old. The country.
Right.
So when people are having these conversations or saying these things, you're just exposing to me how much you're not paying attention to the numbers and the short timeline. The timeline is this little. Because we're like 50, 60, 70 years old, we think that it is a long time, but in a bigger picture and scheme of things, in 1965, black people couldn't drink at water fountains.
Well, they had their own water fountains.
Or
and Black Lives Matter is trying to make that happen again.
But my thing to that is this having a contextual conversation. It's let's reverse it. I'll say something that some of those guys that may disagree with me will agree with me now. why are you calling President Trump a racist? I need to see the footage. Even him being mad at the Central Park 5 and him getting he was a New York Democrat for however long.
Yeah.
Him getting media manipulated, it happens to the best of us. But I can say, okay, more recently, these are the black people that I know personally that his policies let out of jail. Felons.
And got him jobs.
And got him jobs.
Low unemployment.
So when we're talking about the left calling him a racist, wherever you stand on him, I need to see the evidence and the proof of that.
I think he's a blowhard capitalist, and a lot of times the class issue starts to converge with the race issue because a lot of the ex-slaves and their families are of the lower class because they came from
but then I
less
got
money.
I got to interrupt. I don't want to make it seem like most people are angry at all.
yeah.
No.
Most people are chilling.
I mean those people that are there.
I want to make sure I give space to those who are saying they're unhappy and make sure we challenge our ideas. You know what I mean?
Their arguments that they disagree with me are always generally very general, very vague. And they never say, this is where you're wrong and here's the proof.
Let me read the super chat real quick. This is from Miriran Nalen. Said, loved the guest today. Took me a second to get past my emotional response to chew on the conversation. Question, should there be a push for the concept of national civic goals? Something like creating the infrastructure for space mining. The first thing I just want to point out is people are super engaged. Even the people who are challenging a lot of what you say. I want to make sure nobody feels like we're leaving you behind just because if we got to do chung on the show and you really don't agree with me, and I'm reading, man. I'm seeing your comments. I'm going to read your super chats. I'm not going to let someone come in here and say stuff you disagree with and just ignore.
Right.
Nah, we'll challenge everybody.
Right.
And I think if you think they're wrong and they think you're wrong, I mean, isn't it cool that we're having the conversation and we say like, hey, we're Americans. We think we're wrong.
Here's the smoother thing about that.
Well, sorry.
When I'm wrong and it's proven, I'll go, oh man, I was wrong.
Yeah.
I think what we need is just to have the conversation.
Exactly.
And it's hard to do in a medium where like a lot of these people who want to have their voice heard, it's like I can only read a handful of the comments.
But once we get the neural net, no, I'm just kidding.
then they'll be like virtually here and we'll be like, yo, dude, listen.
All questions
Listen,
answered at once.
I'm all about listening to everybody. I'd love to have Antifa, come in and say other things, and we'd have a crazy argument or whatever.
So I should qualify what I said because did come off a little bit harsh, and I don't mean to condescend at the chat.
No.
I would say to the people who do disagree that this is the perfect opportunity to kind of polish your own thinking and be like, okay, why do I disagree with this? And what are some ways that I can kind of engage
Or just
make a difference?
Just super chat and I'll read it.
Yeah.
Right.
Here's
and,
why
and
he's
say,
wrong.
Here's where he's wrong at.
Yeah.
The American infrastructure was built on X. If it's cotton,
Yeah, let's jump into it.
the railroad.
I want to make sure I get to the actual question though. Should there be national civic goals like space mining and stuff?
Space mining?
So the question they're asking is like, I think it pertains to the space race where we as a country, we're like, we're going to the moon, baby. Mm-hmm. Should we as a country be like, here's our mission. Here's what we as a country should do. These cool things, go to Mars, mine asteroids, build underwater cities or something.
So I think before we do that, I think that a national goal would be to start the conversation and apply legislation or remove legislation that is an impediment to us being what our ideals say we are. So, for example, if we can prove that the origin of cannabis, to go back to that, decriminalization was this guy saying, I think that cannabis, or marijuana is what he said, makes white women want to sleep with Negro jazz musicians. If that was his basis, and then that basis turned into policy, you took a moral position as an individual.
I think he was trying to manipulate people. Like
Absolutely. And if legislation was created and now we got people in jail because of the origin of that, when you want to learn something, you got to go to the natural genesis of it.
Yeah.
And if we can say, okay, this is factually accurate. If I'm lying, I'm flying. Now that policy's been created off of this and this is fed into the war on drugs and so forth and so on, let's repeal that. I think that should be some of the things that are national goals.
Yeah, he said stuff about hemp because they were making hemp paper, and he had all the trees and wanted to make it out of
it was a business.
Yeah.
So we got someone who's really trying to get a question. Zarenk says, I'll risk wasting my money again. Don't worry, I got you, bro. The fact that women couldn't vote doesn't mean anything in light of the fact most men were conscripted and couldn't vote. No woman was forced to do that. It's a good point.
So it is a good point. But I disagree with that. The fact that no women could vote doesn't mean anything. It means something. It means you're focusing on men and not women. All of the people around me that give quality, not all, but a lot of the people around me that give quality counsel are women.
I think there's interesting context in. I don't think it's a simple. I'm not trying to accuse you of saying this, that like we just told women they couldn't vote.
Yeah.
I think it was early on only landowners could vote, and everybody says like, "Wow, that's so ridiculous and oppressive," and they don't actually understand the context. And then someone made a really good point. I saw this on Twitter. They said there were no IDs, there was no way to prove who you were. Land ownership was the only way anyone knew you were a member of the community and were voting on issues relative to literally where you lived. The reason the men voted and the women didn't is because the man was the head of the household who would go to the meetings while the woman was taking care of things. And it was assumed the man and the woman's vote was combined, right? And so you actually had young men going to war and dying. Women didn't have to do that. You actually had young men who also could not vote because they weren't landowners either, but they still had to die for the country and were conscripted into other like volunteer fire brigade and stuff like that.
Now, those are the things that are the contradictions that to highlight that because it's not simple. It's not like this one user-friendly, one-size-fit-all answer. No, just men were evil and they hated women. No, but it speaks to a contradiction. And not a contradiction necessarily of malice, necessarily, but a contradiction of, hey, we got to rethink this. Because at a certain point, we rethought it. You know what I mean? We went.
I think it had to do with our society changed.
Right.
We had bigger cities. Not everybody was owning land, but now we had IDs. We understood who was a member of the community, why they should vote. System changed.
And all of these things are why I'm saying when we're talking about atoning and readdressing and self-correcting and course correcting, these are things that are very important. And when we're not doing that, again, at a certain point, it was malicious. Yo, you're black. You can't own a gun. That is the origin of gun control in America, period. And with that being the case, it's like, nah, bro, that's not right. We have to course correct. During the time when someone can acknowledge that, hey, man, there was a time when this wasn't what it was. We were wrong then. We were limited. We were not as evolved in our understanding of liberty and humanity as we got to a certain point. You know what I mean? And these things are...
I think a little bit. I think a lot of it has to do with technology and culture and society.
And just people fighting against it. People saying, yo, you're not going to treat me like a slave, like I don't have a voice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People going like... Because let's play the twist game. There also was black people that owned people in America.
I read this on Snopes. The first slave owner was a black dude.
So with that, then it was about going to the class concept. You know what I'm saying? And so now does that like justify all white people doing it? No. But what I'm saying is there's layers and gradation to all of these things. And I think I don't want any of the people, especially the folks in the super chat, to feel like I'm saying like, no, this happened and America's evil. Bro, again, I live here. I've been to places that don't have a front door.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
Man.
Nah, I'm good. I'm re-upping on America like every year.
We got another one here. This is from Chief Strider. He says, "Who built America? What about the Hispanics, Chinese, Irish, etc.?"
That's a great question, and I'm glad that he said this. Chinese, were they enslaved and brought over here? No.
I think it was more like indentured servitude.
Right, and there's a difference between chattel slavery and indentured servitude.
For sure. Made them build the railroads, but like they got dirt for it.
And which is horrible still. But maybe not as horrible as like chattel slavery, right? Native Americans, horrible. They got the land stole. Like that's it. And again, and I'm not saying it's like we should give. It's not gonna happen.
You know, it's crazy. I was watching a Growth of America map. Mm-hmm. I can't remember. There was a recent Supreme Court ruling that basically gave half of, I think, Oklahoma. Is it, or is it Kansas? I don't know. Like half of the city now falls under like Native American jurisdiction. It was like this crazy ruling. So I was looking at this map of the westward expansion of the U.S. and I didn't realize like it's new, man. You know, we're born into this country assuming we got sea to shining sea. It's like actually no. It's like past 100+ years, you know, and so you can actually see on this map Native American territory just being erased in the 1800s.
Now, when you say that, Tim, are you calling for the fall of America or for America to give the land back to the... Yo, that's
that Supreme Court ruling was nuts, man.
Right. And so what I'm saying is this is what happened. That happened. That doesn't mean like we have to not repeat that. We got to be intellectually honest about it, man. Like we can't pretend like that didn't happen.
I got one here for you. Attica Ray says, "Dear guest, what do you think about recognizing our history but letting the past lie? I'm a woman and my grandmother was a slave too, but I will not be a victim stuck in the past. Nothing today stops us from being successful."
I 100%, I 95% agree with
I wonder why people think you wouldn't agree with that. That's not what I got from the conversation.
Because they think that, they don't know maybe that I do whatever I want to do all the time. No one's like, I'm a melanated American that's a Second Amendment constitutional activist and advocate. Everything in my schooling told me that the Second Amendment and the Constitution wasn't for you. I do not believe that, because I know what if you can trick somebody into believing that, great for you, not for them. You're not going to trick me into it. So yeah, maybe they did mean, well, not the 3/5 people. Most people don't even know what the 3/5 clause actually meant.
Yeah, they don't know the history of it.
Right. But
it's always inverted.
Right.
You know that so I saw a meme where they said the Southerners didn't want their slaves to vote and the North wanted them to. And it's like, actually, no, the South wanted power. They said, we have people, their votes, and the North. It was the North saying no. Isn't
The twist is, if I'm the black dude that's using the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and Declaration of Independence during a time when black people in America were treated subhuman, if that's the thing that I'm using as the framework as we travel around the entire country to empower communities to stand up to themselves, I don't know how anybody on earth would potentially think that I'm like asking for victimhood. Talking about what happened and being honest about it so as to not repeat it, to empower all Americans. I don't want my Latin brothers and sisters, my Asian brothers and sisters to not pretend like their lineage didn't have a strong hand in building this country. That's actually the beautiful thing about America. We're a melting pot. We cannot allow the small amount of racists that have a lot of power to convince us otherwise. So when I say black people in America had a hand in building America, that's not to disparage white Americans. If you're taking that personal, like the one sister said, I had to get past my emotional reaction to that.
Respectable.
Right. And I love that she said that. If you're having an emotional reaction to that, to history, you're no different than the leftists that are saying we got to tear down the statues because we don't like it.
I kind of feel like I think a lot of people are operating under the assumption you're saying straight up we have to have reparations.
No.
You said, you didn't
yeah.
say yes or no. You said that don't use the argument that we can't afford it when you're going to print $3 trillion.
Yeah.
Right.
And I agree with that. It's ridiculous. They just started printing money like crazy.
It's a clear contradiction that never in world history has this worked out good economically.
Dude, I'm so down to talk about a reparation because that's such an interesting concept.
Because I wouldn't even want fiat currency as a reparation.
Like what would be the right reparations? How do we repair the system
I just want to say, the super chat's on fire.
Oh,
because everybody really wants to throw stuff your way. So, I mean,
let's do it.
I can't read every single one, but it's lit up. What's the best way people can tweet you all the things they're concerned about? You can answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they can. Twitter account?
Anytime. My Twitter's Maj Toure, MAJTOURE. I got 5 phones, so I'm pretty.
It's a lot of phones, bro.
Yeah, I walk around with this hotspot. Yeah, you know what I mean? Twitter, Instagram, MAJTOURE. And I'll show you, follow me. I'll go back and forth. I try to follow everybody that follows me up until whatever platform's limit is. I'll show you how you're wrong. If you're right, I'll go, man, you were right there. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not complicated. So, everybody can, but I also want to make sure that people understand what we do with our organization.
I want to clarify too, just in case people don't know, you're Black Guns Matter.
Right.
Yeah. I wonder if people thought you were Black Lives Matter.
Right. I think they think that.
We were kind of ragging on them.
I am absolutely in opposition to Black Lives Matter. That current structure and the quote unquote leadership of Black Lives Matter, I unequivocally denounce and disagree with that. I know that the odds that there's a guy behind the curtain, and it's not the people that they putting in front of the curtain. And even if it was the same people that's behind the curtain that's in front of it, the policy's wrong. I don't care about something that's going to be damaging to the black community and supporting it just because it's black people saying it. I don't care. Is it beneficial for the community that I live in? Because if the black community gets stronger, the rest of America continues to get stronger. That's just what happens, right? So I think people also got to understand that we go into the areas that are most impacted by these left Democratic policies, mainly in regards to the Second Amendment and convincing black people that, that Constitution ain't for you, and something like that, and empowering people that way. We fundraise. We've raised and given away over $360,000 to keep these classes free. Talk about voluntarism and doing a social thing, right? It's voluntary. We're not taxing you. You cannot do it if you don't want to, right? We're helping people as a starting point, and in each one of those classes, we're telling people this isn't the end-all, be-all. You needed some basic information about firearm safety, conflict resolution, de-escalation, and political education. This is the one class crutch. Now, we're not saying stay on the crutches. That's how your muscles go into atrophy. You know what I mean? So it's not like this, we're the welfare, keeping you on and just keep listening to Black Guns Matter. You're supposed to continue up the pyramid, right? So I think people may not know that part, as well as I think people don't know that I am vehemently opposed to government involvement and support. I think that philanthropy and people really rich people going, man, that community's been impacted. I want to help by choice, right? That's bigger to me than the government going, vote the way that we tell you to vote, and we're going to give you like free Obama phones, and we're going to make sure that you have like $1,100. Like, what am I going to do with $1,100, bro? Like, seriously, like in a real and meaningful way. You want to that's how socialism creeps in and turns into communism. You know what I'm saying? So I think the people that are listening need to listen. The people that are disagreeing, I love that you're disagreeing and being brave enough, because some people disagree and they're like, quiet, man, F that dude. Yeah. As opposed to opening up the conversation.
These people are straight up like, I will be heard.
Right.
Well, we got a super chat here for you. Yeah. It's a good one. He says, I love this dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had another super chat from a guy who pointed out, and he gave us it was a pretty good super chat. I want to make sure I get his name, give him credit. He said, YouTube's giving me the business. Royal Raptor says, this guy says, prove it. With only super chats and a 270 character max, think about it like this. How long does it take to poop on the floor versus how long does it take to clean it up? Oh. Your statements as empty as your grammar. Pathetic. Now, I don't know why we like, you got to be so, why are people
ad hominem?
Why are people being so mean? I don't know. I don't get it, man.
But you notice he still didn't say anything. He still didn't prove where I'm wrong.
What's up with that? Like,
because the question was, if I'm saying that our nation's where I live and love, our nation's economy was built on the backs of melanated beings, whether that's yellow people with the railroads, that's how resources are moved, right? Whether that's black people, cotton industries, all of those textile manufacturing, all of that, right? I'm saying that, and I'm asking someone to tell me, no, America's economy was created by this.
I think people just need to tweet at you. You know, because then you can argue with them all day. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So look, I get it, guys. We got a ton of super chats. This is legit, and I appreciate it. I try to read as many as I can, so we'll go a little bit longer. But I mean, yeah, they can tweet at you, and you guys can argue on the internet.
Toure. I got time. I got an RV. I got a fireplace in the RV. I can do it by the fire.
David Franco Jr. says, hey, man, you asked what built the American economy. You can't dismiss all the other factors that built this place and only focus on the minimal gains from slavery. Very few people could even afford slaves.
How many? Okay, that's a good point. And
one other super chat, too, that goes along with it. Someone mentioned only in certain areas, around 30% of areas. So most of the country didn't have slavery. Mm-hmm. So that's the point they're making.
And that's a good. I hear this a lot. How many billionaires are there in America?
I think there's 4. There might be between like 400 and 600.
How many?
No. I'm sorry. That's wrong. That's global. I think America. I don't know. A couple hundred maybe.
Couple hundred billionaires.
Yeah.
A lot of them own a lot of the media, like the Rupert Murdochs and the whatever, right?
Oh, they definitely. Yeah.
Right. And it's a small amount of them that controls like national and sometimes international media, right? So there's a few amount of people that control the economic infrastructure or choices that go into the social, political, and economic landscape of America. So when you make this argument that only a few people owned a lot of the resources, that doesn't change the fact that the entire structure was around those few people that did wrong. And now, this does not mean...
It sprawls.
It sprawls. And this does not mean that... I'm not saying that oh, all of you white folks were the people that, come on, bro. Like, don't like limit me to such a small and dismissive thing. And I'm also saying that there were a lot of white abolitionists that were like, no, this is not okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
John Brown.
Yeah. I think we visited. Yeah.
Like Harper's Ferry, bro. Like, come on. Like, I'm down with Bacon's Rebellion. I understand it. So I'm not saying that all of you white people are just like, come on, bro. Like, that's really reductive. But that does not change the fact that a small amount of people can influence the resources and change the structure of an entire nation and sometimes an entire globe. Like, how many, like Rome, like Augustus, Julius Caesar, like these guys changed. Julius and Augustus changed the calendar. Those are two dudes.
That's funny.
Those are two dudes.
Rome was built on the back of slaves.
Kinda. But Julius was like, bro, I need a month, bro. Augustus was like, bro, I need a month, and my month needs to be longer than his. You're still counting July and August. Those are two dudes that changed your concept of the calendar. So don't, like, you can't, no, bro. Jeff Bezos is really, really rich.
This is what, look, there was the story about George Soros funding these DAs.
Yeah.
And many of these DAs won't prosecute. And people bring it up all the time, and I'm like, I hear you. And you got Mackenzie Bezos.
Right.
Listen, Jeff Bezos builds Amazon, and she definitely worked a long time. I'm not going to diminish what her role is. It was significant. And then she divorces him, and she gets this big payout and then dumps billions of dollars into all of this leftist stuff. It's that all of these billionaires do this. Not all of them.
But a lot of them.
Right. They're funding their idea. And wasn't you said earlier, like, if you were rich, or someone said this, like, if I was rich, I'd probably do the same thing, right? You're going to fund what you believe in.
I think Seamus said that yesterday.
Right. Yeah, I look, people, like, look, if you came across, $1 billion, wouldn't you want to fund gun programs?
Absolutely.
You see how it works?
But the difference for me is I actually am in alignment with, I can be honest about our nation's history while still trying to improve our nation's future.
Yeah, I think George Washington had a bunch of slaves. Thomas Jefferson had a bunch of slaves.
Yes.
And I don't think those guys could have got done what they got done without them.
Now they could have. That's why Thomas Paine was pulling.
It's conjecture. I don't know, but
Thomas Paine was, because Thomas Paine didn't. That's why you don't hear about Thomas Paine.
This guy wrote Common Sense.
This dude is Freddie Mercury somewhere else. Was basically because the argument becomes, well, that was what happened during that time. This was a dude during that time that influenced the mind in regards to liberty of a lot of the founding fathers. That was one of those dudes that was like pissing people off because he wouldn't stay on one side. He was objective. He was a critical thinker. He was very logical, and he assessed things situation by situation. He was honest, even in the midst of when it was not convenient and popular to be honest. So he didn't have as many friends, but they all pulled from his ideas in regards to liberty. So when you have that, I understand completely. If I'm saying, because this is the same guy that was like, bro, y'all are talking about freedom and you can't like own people. It's a contradiction. There's quotes of him like, and I'm paraphrasing, he wasn't saying bro. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's like him during that time saying this is not okay. A lone voice. But it was money tied into slavery. It was infrastructure tied into it. And you didn't want to till that soil yourself. And I get it. I'm not tripping.
Physically could not have tilled that soil.
Physically could not have.
I think the easiest way to put it, I can't read every single super chat, but they are pouring in. And there's a ton of people saying, like, this is awesome. A ton of people saying, like, this guy is so wrong. So the reason I'm trying to highlight, a lot of the criticism is because I think we're having a conversation and we're giving you your space, and everyone who agrees is just going along with it, and the people who disagree aren't getting their voice to counter and like challenge. And so a lot of people are trying to bring these things up. I want to make sure I get to them. So, hey guys, I'll do my best. We're going to do our thing. A lot of people saying you got to come back. We got to have more conversations. But someone brought up a really good point to have you sit down and bring out like a black conservative and then have a bigger conversation so that we have more people challenging a more, you know what I mean? Like, give these people who are upset their avatar to be there and sit you and tell you know what I mean?
Yes, I 100% agree with that. I actually did something like this last week and Saturday in Atlanta. I had black conservatives, black liberals, independents, Democrats. It was the Solutionary Summit. We're going to start doing it annually. You got to come to that next year. I'm going to have it in Miami, I think. Miami or Vegas.
No time for me, man.
Yeah, you can't.
No rest for the wicked.
You got to do one of these there.
Ooh. Maybe we have the van. We're trying to figure out how we can convert it. Maybe I got to get an RV or something.
Get an RV.
Because that'd be cool. Yeah. Look, man, I'm all about honest, cordial conversations, and rational discourse. I think what we could use here is, I don't know, people more prepared to represent those that want to have that challenge.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's what we're missing. It's not intentional. I'm not trying to put anybody down.
We should do it in a debate. We should do it. Maybe do it at like the Soho
Who
Forum.
would be a good person? So for you guys in Super Chat that want to see something different, who do you think would be a good person we could bring here, and then you guys could have a debate?
Yeah.
And then I'll sit back. We'll do fact checking and stuff. We could do all that stuff. That'd be fun.
Yep, that would be excellent.
But I mean, like
they're gonna say people that I destroy though. They're gonna say like the Black Conservative Inc. people that are afraid to debate me.
But you're a pretty conservative guy too, so I imagine like you're gonna end up agreeing on a bunch of things. Like,
because where we disagree now, if you're talking about, because that person said Black conservative, right? Those people aren't necessarily Black conservatives. Those people a lot of times are just statists, and they're saying it. They're riding the Trump wave, right? Those people will say things like police brutality is a myth, and it's like, come on, bro, I got beat up by the cops twice. So that would mean, like, if it's a myth, like the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot showed up to beat me up twice. Now, I can exist in a space where I'm like, that was a horrible representation of law enforcement, but those guys exist, right? Is it as highlighted as media, or is it as pronounced as media highlights it to be? Absolutely not. Those two things can be true at the same time.
Right.
But to dismiss it, so those are the people that they'd say he should have. I've already
That's
done
weird.
their
I say
shows.
the same thing, dude. I say it all the time. I'm like, I've had so many bad experiences with cops, but I recognize 375 million interactions mostly are not bad.
And like,
you know what I mean?
one guy could have a horrible interaction one day and be totally cool every other day. So it's not like it's not like you can't segregate the people,
right?
The behavior.
You have to look at that policy. You have to look at when you're talking about, because we started this conversation talking about Breonna Taylor. You have to have the talk about the bigger picture. The war on drugs is the problem. It's putting law enforcement officers in unnecessary risk. It's an unnecessary risk. They don't know what they're going into. Kenneth Walker didn't know who was kicking in their door. So it's putting Americans on law enforcement side or citizen side in unnecessary harm. So we got to have that conversation. We got to have the conversation about too many laws being on the books. We have to have those conversations, and these type of discourses create room to get it to the bigger conversation.
We were kind of mentioning sunset clauses built in, bless you, into like laws in general. Like, this law will expire after 5 years, and in 5 years you decide if you want to keep it on.
Somebody said, Vicidia says Brandon Tatum 100%.
So let me tell you about Brandon Tatum. I challenged Brandon Tatum, and I said I'd bet him of $50,000 of my own money for him and somebody else to debate me together. He denied. He wanted to do it on Skype and yell at each other. A debate, Oxford style. Problem is, these guys aren't smart enough. Brandon Tatum doesn't read.
Oh, you got that's a glove
Gauntlet
slap, bro.
has been
Yeah,
thrown.
you just throw a gauntlet on the table,
I will
bro.
destroy Brandon Tatum.
Figuratively,
Right, Brandon, you in?
In a debate. I said him and somebody else. What he said was, because this was months ago, then he got on, he made a complete fool of himself. He got on the Skype that they wanted me to be a part of. I'm like, no, bro, let's sell tickets. Then he said, is it all about the money? I said, I thought you were a Trump guy. Trump's about free market capitalism. You want people to do things for free, you socialist.
Oh boy.
You socialist. Now, when I said that to him, I said, let's do a Oxford style debate. You can get somebody else that you want. I'll put up $50,000. Winner take the money. It's all about the money with you. Oh, you mean like the money that you charge people for your merch? He don't want no smoke with me.
It's gonna be rough. You dropping the gauntlet. You got a glove slap.
Anybody. It actually isn't a debate. To quote the master teacher, Dr. John Henrik Clark, I debate my equals. All others I teach. I will destroy these people.
So the point I'm trying
and I want to debate based on rules and I want my victory solidified. I don't want like you got more followers than me, so your peanut gallery's louder.
I'm down. I'm totally down to have a debate. I just got to say civility. We got to make sure
Absolutely.
Because I'll tell you this, man, if you're coming out this strong and you're saying these things about Brandon, well, you're putting him down before you even got started.
No.
There's going to be a lot of
I think
emotion.
I think
you know
he's
what I mean?
I respect him as a man. I respect him as a human. I think that he's not well versed enough. I think he knows the black conservative talking points. I think that anyone that attempts to, it's a contradiction. If we say we're Christian, if he identifies as Christian, and you're not willing to give someone redemption, and you think that they, should be killed because they happen to look in a construction site, or you think that, they're guilty because of the way that they look, or so forth and so on, I think that is a contradiction to the belief in redemption. Jesus was with the criminals. Jesus, by definition, was a criminal. He was speaking out against the state. It's what happened. He got crucified for it. So these verbal crucifixions that I'm experiencing, that's nothing. That's a walk in the park. So I'm not disrespecting Brandon as a human. I don't think that he's well read enough to compete with me in a debate. That's why I've already challenged him and said I'd put up $50,000.
Yeah, no. Just I'll finish your thoughts. Sorry.
Yeah, and he scared.
People are throwing out tons of other names as well. Larry Elder, Candace Owens, the Hodge twins.
Again, the Hodge twins follow me. I like the Hodge twins. Those dudes are hilarious. I think they have they have more of a balanced approach on a lot of things.
You know why I think this would be really interesting is because you're libertarian with conservative leanings. You're not like an SJW far left guy, but you have some opinions that are closer there,
Because I understand the fact, like when you're saying I'm left on some areas because some social issues should be addressed, right? It's the same thing, but I'm supposed to not be able to say that if I'm conservative or black. I'm supposed to say you SJWs don't have any point. You Antifa guys don't have even a broke clock's right twice a day.
Exactly. That's the problem I have with them on Trump.
Right.
Like, come on, man. If you were being honest, you'd at least give him credit for the things he did right.
And that's my point. So because I'm doing that in every area, moment to moment, and reminiscent of a Thomas Paine, I can't say I want to continue to evolve as a thinker, as a philosopher, as an activist, as a constitutionalist. I can't say that and ignore the evolution of our great thinkers. You can't ignore the evolution of a Malcolm X that went from a straight up criminal to like mad and frustrated and came home and hated white people, goes to Mecca, comes back and goes, hey man, I was wrong about that part. I'm not wrong about the fact that there are serious issues that black people in America are facing at that time especially. So you can't ignore his evolution and just go, oh, he's all bad. You cannot do that if you're being objective about things. And if I was to do that in that spirit and not be objective about every scenario. So again, Breonna Taylor, I understand fully why the two officers that shot back after being shot at were not charged. I fully understand why the one officer that shot more recklessly has been charged and he's looking at 5 years. I fully understand why Kenneth Walker, when I don't care if you're knocking or not, I don't have to answer my door. If you bust into my house, I'm going to be able to defend my house. I fully understand that. The government of that city understands that too. That's why they dropped the charges against him. The civil the Breonna Taylor's family was accepted a civil deal. I don't know what the numbers are.
12 million.
12 million. So there was a damage. They felt that was enough for that death.
But couldn't that have been political? They got riots, man.
It could have been.
And so they're like, just give them money. We got to do something.
Maybe, but you're supposed to because that's a financial obligation to someone whose life has been taken. And I think they got off cheap at $12 million.
Yeah.
So,
that's a good point.
So those layers of objectivity is the thing that most people have a difficult time taking in because if you've positioned yourself as hardline, I can tell you where I agree and disagree with Colin Kaepernick. I can tell you where I agree and disagree with President Trump. None of this is personal to me. This is all business. We are in a war, an ideological war for the republic. That is what's happening right now. And if I'm going to be emotional in the middle of a war, like I said earlier, that's how you get your head blown off. And I don't want to do that. We have to make sure that we're being the example of balance, being the example of fair and balanced, being the example of objectivity, being the example of setting culture that will then drive politics. So when someone from the right can say to someone from the left, yo, that makes sense. Where Ron or Rand Paul can present things that make sense and both parties go, that makes sense. Where Thomas Massey can say, hey guys, my one job as this public servant is to publicly vote on things. I do not want to not vote on the largest wealth transfer in American history. You have one job. That's your job. I got to do that job.
You familiar with Eric July?
That's my homie.
Eric A says Eric July would be perfect.
Eric July and me agree on a ton of the stuff.
Would you disagree on things?
I have yet to figure. We did me, him, and Larry Sharp did a great interview. It was about an hour or two long. I don't know where we've disagreed. I'm trying to find areas where I've disagreed with Eric July. He's a Cowboys fan.
Is that it?
Like, that's it.
That's how it begins.
That's it. That's how it starts. Then you got to find the other stuff that you disagree with. Yeah, Eric July, that's the homie. And I've tried to find areas where I'm like, man, this guy's not making sense. I haven't found any yet. You know what I mean?
I just got a text.
Yeah.
Just
Breaking
trying to make.
news.
I'm trying to make sure it's not breaking news. Yeah.
Yeah.
But all right. So I'll tell you what. We've gone 45 minutes over. This was good, dude. This was fun.
I love it.
Why don't we set up something and these people who want to challenge things you're saying,
fun.
I'm down.
let's for real, man. If you guys, if the people in the
They
chat
won't show up.
they'll show up and it'll be epic. We'll make it happen, dude.
You guys are scared.
Oh, snap.
You're gonna get them
Here's
all
a
angry again.
natural part of
No,
evolution.
we'll do it. We'll do it. So I guess we got to figure out who, look, like I said, most people are enjoying, they're chilling.
Yeah.
But the people who feel like you're not representing their ideas properly or you're getting things wrong, let's set it up. Let's have that challenge, that conversation.
We'll be betting.
I don't know.
Integrity.
What are we betting?
No.
We can do
The RV?
Free market capital.
I got an idea. What if we do a poll afterwards,
Yeah.
and all the super chat money goes to the charity of choice for whoever is deemed to be the winner?
I love that.
We could do something like that. That'd be cool.
I love that.
So then we get two dudes. You guys will go at it. I'll try to. I don't know if I can moderate. I'll do my best.
Try to figure it out.
And then we'll have some fact checking.
I love it.
And then for the most part, let you and whoever else do the thing. All that super chat money.
Yes.
And we'll do comments and stuff. You guys will each pick a charity, and then boom.
I love it. I love that. I'm down.
That
I'm in
sounds
for it.
awesome.
We'll start turning the wheels on this.
Yes.
No guarantees.
Yeah.
Because we've had people cancel on us, and I'm like, guess what we're gonna have next tomorrow, and then they don't show up. So
See?
but we'll get the gears turning, man.
When we set it up in my schedule, I'll make sure if it's ahead of time, I'll secure that date, and I don't flake.
It'll be a really fun mental battle.
Yep.
Between people and ideas.
And I've been kind of cooped up in the house for a few months, so coming out to get a win,
Yes.
is
Oh,
a
yeah,
great
dude.
thing. Coming out to get a victory is always a good thing.
You see, you're doing the MMA guys will get all big and they'll get their ego up and they'll be like, I'm gonna win, and you gotta make sure you put the
I challenge myself to do that because when you do that, everybody wants to see you fall.
exactly. So
And
people
so-
right now are probably like, I want to see this guy get crushed
Yep.
in a debate.
And knowing that is what makes me work harder.
There you go. Your motivation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
So a ton of people are super stoked now, and they're like, "This is awesome! Let's do it!" Because I think even some of the people who are angry are like, "Yes, we're gonna get this guy."
Yep.
It'll be fun.
Yep.
But we did go 47 minutes
Oh,
over,
man.
so I think we should wrap up because I still have to work in the morning and everything. But
Yeah.
Maj, dude, thanks for hanging out. It's been
Thank y'all
fun,
for
man.
having me, for sure.
Your Twitter is at Maj2Ray.
At Maj2Ray. And is it cool if I do a shameless plug?
Of course, do it to it.
So, guys, outside of if you agree with me or disagree with me on some of these issues, we all, generally, if you don't agree with this, I don't really know what to say for you. Urban America really, really needs more conflict resolution, more political education, and more firearms safety training. Safe and responsible handling. That's what we do at Black Guns Matter. This entire tour has been funded by the people. If you agree, if you disagree, we all can say that we need safer communities and we need guys and women that that have the ability to defend themselves from weirdos, rapists, and all that other type of stuff. So our efforts is we do have a GoFundMe page. It's gofundme.com/Black Guns Matter. Every single penny has been transparent. Every single penny has went to, in 2018, I think we did like 50 cities. We got an RV now, so we can stay in cities like Chicago, Detroit, New Orleans. We can stay there longer, St. Louis, because sometimes you can't just do a Chicago in 1 or 2 days. You know, we have conflict resolution kits. We show people how to get firearms lawfully. We link them up with attorneys. We deal with conflict resolution. I can't just give you, teach you how to get a gun, but then you're a psychopath, So we deal with de-escalation, conflict resolution, things like that. But again, guys, this is all in good fun. Me even challenging you guys. I love the fact that you've challenged and disagreed. That's how we move forward. If you agree with that, if you got $20, if you're a really, really rich dude and want to just knock out the rest of the $1 million goal, donate $600 and some odd $1,000, great, it's dope, do it. If you got $6, if you got $20, I don't care, man. This type of information, that part should not be political. That part should be people having the constitutional and human right to defend themselves from weirdos. So, hopefully you guys have been engaged. GoFundMe.com/Black Guns Matter.
Right on, man. Dude, thanks for hanging out. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Parler at Timcast, of course. You can check out youtube.com/Timcast, youtube.com/Timcast News, my other channels. I put up kind of all throughout the day. And, of course, we got Ian, who's been chilling. You can follow Ian.
Yeah, Ian Crossland. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and on twitch.tv because sometimes I stream games.
And we are going to get the correct microphone. What's crazy is because of the COVID supply chain disruption, we couldn't get the mic. So Lydia's using this
still here.
Very nice shotgun mic. But you can follow Lydia at Sour Patch Lids, Sour Patch LYDS. And we'll be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. live. I think the internet worked.
Yeah,
we had no problems.
This is,
this is great, dude.
This is great.
Ooh, I love
This is
it.
the right day.
All right, and you know what? To everybody in the chat who had a good time and agree and super chatted, really, really do appreciate it. And everyone who disagreed, let me know what you want to see so we could do a better job. I want to hear your criticism, and I want to make sure that we're doing a show that actually gets to the core of these issues and doesn't leave anybody hanging feeling like they're not getting the right information or they're not being heard. And definitely, if I'm getting things wrong, I corrected myself like 3 times on the Breonna Taylor thing we got wrong last night.
That's great.
I did it like 3 segments today. I was like, I was wrong. So I'm definitely trying, man. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. We'll be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. live, and we'll have clips up throughout the day on the channel. Don't forget to subscribe, smash that like button on the way out, hit the notification bell, and we will see you all tomorrow.